This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
The Indianapolis Colts select
JT Tuimoloau, DN, Ohio State. Justin Wally, defensive back, Minnesota.
Jalen Travis, tackle, Iowa State.
DJ Giddens, running back, Kansas State.
Riley Leonard, quarterback, Notre Dame.
Tim Smith, defensive tackle, Alabama. Hunter Wohler, linebacker, Wisconsin.
That one was off balance. Lillard volleyballs it over, and Lillard goes down with an injury. He's grabbing his high ankle of the left leg.
He's putting no pressure on that foot, so not a good sign here from Milwaukee and Damian Lillard.
The league's best three-point shooting team. Milwaukee is staying in this game because of their three-point shooting. They're 8 of 16. Turn around the foul line. Got it to Toppin. Nobody within any kind of proximity. And he hits a three. The Pacers take it to the other end. Turner runs right into Antetokounmpo, and the bench rises to its feet as he threw it down. Nembhard drives it. He'll have to hurry. A 15-footer off target, right side. Great offensive rebound by Shepard. Out to Walker for three. Ben Shepard with a brilliant offensive rebound. Another wide open three. This time, though, it is not connected with as Halliburton left it off the front of the rim, and then Green a long pass. And what a play by Neesmith. Portis had a layup left edge, and Neesmith still down at the other end as Halliburton drives to the goal, scores, and draws the foul.
Did the overrated chance in any way fuel you these last two games?
Sure. It's all in fun. That's the beautiful part about our sport. You know, talk back and forth.
The team functioned so much better tonight, just in terms of our ball movement. And defensively, you know, we were more locked in tonight. The next game is 6 p.m. on Tuesday. It's a quick turnaround, and we're going to need to be ready, and we're going to need our fans to have Gamebridge louder than it's ever been.
I'm a bad boy. Wanna front, who got your back? Wanna flex, who got the...
Nothing going on over the weekend. Good morning, everyone. JB, KB. Happy to see you guys again. Mark Dykton, great job as always on the open there. Everybody take a collected deep breath at about midnight last night after going nonstop since Thursday evening, JB?
Pretty much, yeah. I stopped by Fever practice as well. First practice of their training camp. Caitlin Clark talking later today for the first time in the 2025 season. So it keeps rolling, but yes, I was able to take a deep breath and kind of see the sun for the first time in a couple of days, and not see Kevin Bowen, who I love. Wow. I love him, but you know,
I hear
KB,
ya.
we see each other a lot during draft weekend.
We do.
Yeah. All right, KB. Initial thoughts of the weekend. I'll let you start wherever you want to. So much to get to.
Well, you know, Pacers and Racers, when the month of May rolls around here later this week, I think last night certainly a major step in that direction will continue. That was a beatdown last night, and yes, certainly the Damian Lillard injury, as Mark put there in the intro, I thought it just took all the life really out of that arena when it happened. I think everybody kind of knew full well what was going on, but Miles Turner was absolutely outstanding. I thought, frankly, one of the better games of his career. I don't know if that's maybe a crazy statement to make here, as he's played 10 years, but I thought he was outstanding on both ends. The bench, really, really good, and now you can finally finish off Milwaukee here coming up Tuesday night at 6. And then I always enjoy the draft. You know, I just feel like it's a fun time to kind of get to know new players. I think there are some differences with this Chris Bauer draft and maybe some we've seen in recent years. So I'm really looking forward to kind of dissecting it all and getting to explain to fans what we have learned about these guys over the last 3 or 4 days.
KB, I'm glad you put the spotlight early on Miles Turner, because when was the last time you saw the Bucks down low in the interior in that second half, especially, where just because Giannis had the ball, it was not a given that the ball was going in?
Yeah, I don't know if, honestly, the Giannis box score will do it justice. I thought the Pacers actually defended him very well, particularly early, particularly in that first half. And again, Turner, I mean, both ends of the floor. He had the emphatic dunk there in the third quarter.
Oh, my goodness.
That just started things off.
I thought that was really key, just because you look at Friday night, what happened in the third quarter. You had an ability to step on their throat. You didn't do it. Last night, I thought, again, you did it in a very emphatic way. The Aaron Nesmith block, I hope that will be on the highlight reel for those that missed it last night. It was just a hell of an individual effort by him to get back and make that block there. in the third quarter because Milwaukee had a lot of fake runs in Indiana. Cut it to 9, and Portis is yelling a little bit, and it's like, all right, is Carlisle going to take one of these timeouts? But it never got to 5 or 6 or certainly even one possession. So very impressive from the Pacers last night. They've been the better team in 7 of these 8 halves so far, convincingly the better team. And now 6 o'clock tomorrow night, they'll try to finish off the Bucks.
Yeah, I know everyone kind of held their breath a little bit when Aaron Nesmith went down because it's like, all right, you made a great play, but can you get back up, holding the tailbone a little bit? But saw him on the sideline on the broadcast smiling, and it's like, okay, he's fine. And
he came back in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He came back in, knocked down a 3 in the corner, and it felt like every time that Milwaukee tried to, like you said, Kevin, go on a run, there was just his gut punch. And then the shooting was amazing. I believe when I looked at the box score late last night after the game, I want to say pretty much every player in double figures shot 50% or better from the field. And so when you get, I believe, 8 guys in double figures, you don't lose many of those games. So, yeah, I mean, Milwaukee's defense is absolutely terrible. They cannot guard a lamppost, as my dad would say. And it was exposed time and time again, even when their offense was clicking a little bit. So, and to your point, Kevin, yes, I thought that they put Giannis through the ringer early on. Early on, he was like 3 for 10. He wasn't getting a lot of foul calls. And obviously, he's Giannis. I mean, it's incredible, but they will have some big questions ahead of them, assuming that the Pacers are able to close this out in Game 5 or really just in general close out the series because that team is not a championship team by any stretch of our imagination. Whereas the Pacers, I mean, they were swinging the ball, moving the ball. And I thought about that stat you threw out there, Kevin. We talked to maybe Rick Carlisle last week about the 315-ish passes. And, man, that ball was hopping throughout that game.
It certainly was. And I just want to take a moment, too. Like, Damian Lillard, that was so tough to watch because we all knew what was going on at that moment. And that's a guy that's always been competitive. He's always been a highlight reel. He's always been fun to watch. You don't like it when he's going off against your team. But, man, that's just especially as you get on the other side of 30, that's a tough thing to watch last night, man. I did not enjoy that at all.
Absolutely not. And we've seen it so many times. I go back to Kevin Durant, probably the most prominent Achilles tear that I can remember. And ever since then, you kind of like know the signs. And guy acts like he got kicked in the back of the leg, you pretty much know what's going on. So he'll most likely probably miss all of next season, considering that he tore it so late in this season. But, prayers out to Dame. And I thought it was very classy for Tyrese to start his post-game news conference by expressing some condolences to him and his injury and things like that, because for as much as the back and forth has been going on between those two, there is a ton of mutual respect. And aside from, like, the trash talk on the court, no one can really say Damian Lillard is like a bad person. Like, he's a great human being by all accounts. I know Pacers fans might be a little jealous that he didn't give Tyrese the MVP a couple years ago at the All-Star game, but a class act throughout, and Tyrese giving him that same class back.
Yeah, I mean, I want to be clear. This dates back to last year with the Bucks. The Pacers have been the better team when these teams have been fully healthy. Like, there's no question about that. And again, last year, the Pacers proved that, but it is rather incredible how fortunate the Pacers have been with some of these injuries in the postseason the last 2 years. I mean, you look at Giannis last year missing the whole series. Lillard missed, 2 games last year in that series. Remember, OG Anunoby exited early. And I know Halliburton, left the Eastern Conference Finals early. And then last night, of course, with Lillard and Lillard having the blood clot to miss Game 1, it's just kind of amazing because it's not like the Pacers have been injury-free. I mean, if you look at it, Nembhard and Nesmith battled injuries early in the season. Halliburton, certainly last year, battled a whole lot. The Pacers have just kind of gotten their injuries, I guess, out of the way almost. And, I don't think we can compare, Mathurin missing last year's postseason to not having Giannis or something along those lines. But, again, just to reiterate what I said there at the start, the Pacers are 1,000% the better team. They were the better team last year when these teams were healthy. They are once again the better team right now. And I think it's not premature at all to say you got to get this done as quick as possible, because I would expect Cleveland to get it done tonight. That would be a 4-game sweep of the Miami Heat, and that means Pacers-Cavs waiting in the Eastern Conference semifinals as quickly as the Pacers can get it done themselves.
Double bonus. You get a big win on the road in a game in which Giannis hits all of his free throws, JB. I kept waiting for him to start missing, and he didn't.
Yeah, I mean, he's an incredible talent. There was a point in the second half, I believe it was the third quarter, he scored about 20 points in the third quarter, and I'm like, man, this guy is unbelievable, but it just did not matter. I felt like, they tried to muck up the game a little bit. They tried to, intimidate a couple of players. Obviously, Bobby Porter standing over Aaron Nesmith and, getting into it with Tyrese Halliburton a little bit. But to me, the Pacers are not going to get bullied. They've pretty much established that. And instead of getting bullied or even just kind of being even, they bullied back. I mean, they just kicked their teeth in with some of those, shots and execution. And I believe, again, the play of the game might have been the Aaron Nesmith block on one end. He just goes up super high, erases that shot. And on the other end, you have Tyrese, who gets the N1 layup and gets the flexing. And I think part of the irritation with him, if you're an opposing fan, is that he looks like his chest is as big as mine. He's a skinny dude. He's not that very, intimidating as far as a physical figure, but you look up and what do you have? A double-double, 17, 15, and 8, 2 rebound shot with triple-double in the playoffs. I'm going to get on him, Ty, for listening. 5 turnovers. We're not used to this in Indiana, but, I give him some grace there because a win is a win.
Well, they looked terrific last night. They're up 3-1 in the series, coming home for Game 5 on Tuesday. We'll tell you more about that in detail. Also, get into the NFL draft and specifically the Colts as we roll on this morning here. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan on a Monday morning.
Bulldogs basketball 2025-26 season tickets are on sale now. Registration for iconic Hinkle Fieldhouse premium seats runs through May 31st. Don't miss Hinkle Magic. Visit butlersports.com/buy tickets.
Pacers getting it done. We talked about this before the series. Kevin Bowen. Last night was officially the 19th time in 2 seasons two NBA teams have played against one another. That's insane.
Insane. 129-103. Pacers all over the Bucks last night. Certainly, if you watched it, you did see the injury to Damian Lillard occurred. I think it was 15-12 when Lillard went down, and right away you could tell the earlier reports it is indeed an Achilles injury. So absolutely awful on that front. But once again, the Pacers really thoroughly in control of that game. Another double-digit lead at halftime, stepped on their throat in the third quarter. I thought Miles Turner, if we're going to hand out a game ball, which saying a game ball when it's Pacers-Bucks always makes me laugh, it goes to number 33. I thought he was absolutely outstanding on both ends, and I thought the bench was key. You know, without Mathurin, you kind of change up some of your rotations. I thought Ben Shepherd, Jarris Walker, Obi Toppin, TJ McConnell, I thought those guys were really good as well.
129-103, the final score. James, 8 Pacers in double figures, only 2 for the Bucks.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the theme of the series. The Pacers are the more balanced team, the deeper team, and just honestly the better team. So I would expect them to close it out in Game 5.
All right, coming up on Tuesday night, they'll host the Milwaukee Bucks over at the Fieldhouse. 6 p.m. tip over there. Also last night, the Lakers and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Timberwolves hang on. Lakers had a chance to tie it late, but the T-Wolves hang on, and they're in control of that series all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think that series is over. I mean, it's very hard to come back from down 3-1. LeBron's done it in the past, but that was way back when. This is now, and I'm thinking about Anthony Edwards. If you can say you knocked off Kevin Durant in the playoff series and LeBron James in your career, that's pretty special.
116-103 the final, or 113 the final there. Knicks beat the Pistons 94-93. Late game controversy there, Kevin. Did you see any of that?
I did, yes, indeed. Josh Hart certainly committed a foul. You know, I thought Hardaway might have jumped into him, but clearly there was contact there that should have sent Hardaway to the line. Boy, if you're a Pistons fan, losing Game 3 and Game 4 like that on your home floor when you've gotten the split. I mean, they got the split in Madison Square Garden to start. Absolutely brutal. So I think you're a Pacers fan. You honestly, you probably want Miami to try and at least salvage something tonight. That's Cleveland-Miami tonight. The Cavs are up 3-0. Again, if and when the Pacers advance, that's who they will play in the second round. Right now, you'd have kind of a one-day gap with where Cleveland is at if both of these teams take care of business and win their respective series.
All right, so the next one, 94-93. They lead that series 3-1, as do the Celtics over the Magic by virtue of a 107-98 win. But it wasn't all that easy for the Celtics yesterday. They had to work for that one.
No, but at the same time, it's the Celtics against the Magic, and if anybody picked the Magic in that series, you probably live in Orlando.
All right, Major League Baseball. Yes, the Cincinnati Reds complete the sweep of the Colorado Rockies. 8-1. When you're in trouble, you just play the Rockies, don't you?
I've never seen Mark look so sad.
That was sad.
That's it?
Oh, my goodness.
What do you mean? Ding of a bell?
Wow. Well, you told me the other day, don't worry about the Reds. And
You're
it's
the
only
one
April.
that literally put this curse on them on Friday, and that's all you give me?
No, I said I didn't put a curse
if
on
they
them.
don't sweep the Rockies, they should be banned from Major League Baseball.
No, I just said you'd rue the day because of all the Cubs swept the Dodgers in only 2 games. It's not a sweep. So I said, well, they better sweep the garbage Rockies then. And they did. So you're welcome.
It was a busy weekend. I didn't have a chance to see how the Cubs did.
They lost 2 out of 3, but that's okay. You can't. They've been playing a murderer's row schedule, not the Rockies. Come on now.
They lost to the Phillies yesterday.
Pathetic.
Kevin,
All I get's a
3-1
freaking ding.
in 10 innings. That's what happened in that one right
Dinner's
there.
ready. That's all Mark Dykton gave.
I rang the dinner bell for you.
St. Paul
Come and
Saints
get
over
it.
the Indianapolis Indians 5-3. Indians on the road in that one. They will have the day off later on today. And NASCAR, did you guys pay attention to NASCAR at all yesterday?
No.
I'll be honest, it was a lot of sleep. Sleep and still doing some post-draft coverage, honestly.
I can't say NASCAR's ever at the top of my watch list.
I was thinking the same thing this morning, but Austin Cindric won at Talladega in the Jack Links 500. So that's what's happening in the world of sports. Anything else you want to throw in there, JB?
I got a couple more stories post-draft coming out pretty soon. I actually posted this, and I think, Kevin, you'll appreciate this because I think Joel A. Erickson and Indy Star does their version too, but just the scouts breaking down what was said about each player. That came out this morning at The Athletic, so check that out. And I have, again, Chad Henry, one of their main area scouts for Tyler Warren, nicknamed him the truck because he's reliable and tough and trucks people. And so there's a lot of insight there. I think people appreciate that because, they can give you perspective that we can't when it comes to the players because they've studied them or, honed in on them for months, if not years, when it comes to bringing them to the Colts.
Certainly want to give a shout-out to the Mr. Basketball. That would be Braylon Mullins, announced over the weekend, 182-65, the vote there. Trey Singleton certainly had quite the year. And leading Jeffersonville to that upset in the 4A state finals, he was the runner-up, in a class where Jalen Harrelson and Trenton Sisley both left and went to prep schools for their final years. Certainly a hat tip to Braylon Mullins on a great high school run. And as James mentioned earlier, the Fever, they have started training camp. They're 5 days away this Saturday. They will play a home preseason game at Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock. Sunday, they'll be in Iowa City. Again, Caitlin Clark going back to her college hometown. They'll take on the Brazilian national team. May 17th is when things open up for the regular season, but things will pick up in a hurry here with the Indiana Fever and Stephanie White and company. So training camp started yesterday.
We may have a major announcement around that later on this week.
We'll see. But I do want to give a quick shout out as well to Braylon Mullins. I got to see him play in person, I want to say 3 or 4 times during his senior year, and this is not a shot at him at all, but he had a chance to get out of the sectional, didn't, in one of the greatest high school games that I saw against Mount Vernon and Luke Ertl, who's going to Purdue in about a year. But I think that speaks to the health of Indiana high school basketball. I mean, Mr. Basketball didn't make it out of the sectional because there's other players that are really good as well. But he was awesome. I mean, very deserving. One of the best players, high school players I've ever seen in my life. And the kid is going to have a bright future at UConn and potentially a bright future in the NBA as well. He's that good. When I saw him for the first time, Kevin, I was like, oh, this kid's going to get paid in a few years to play this game, and that's how good he is. And also, respect to him for staying. I was reading the story by Kyle Neddenrip, and there's a quote in there where he was saying, like, having my jersey on the wall here will mean a lot more 50 years from now than it does right now. And to have that perspective as a kid and to stay with your friends and stay in your hometown when you could have went to any prep school in the country, man, I can't say enough about why I love, watching Braylon Mullins and the character that he displayed.
All right, coming up in just a moment, we'll have a recap of last night's Pacers win over the Bucks, and we'll look at the NFL draft, specifically the Indianapolis Colts, as we continue on a Monday, another Victory Monday here at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Apparently, the whole of the United States of America descended upon Green Bay this weekend. JB, you see the estimates, you see what the NFL's talking about. I don't know if that's real or not, but there were a lot of people there, and the draft has taken place, and so many storylines, and we'll get to the Colts in just a second. But what did either one of you guys, KB, what did you think of the Shedeur Sanders slide, and finally then the Browns in the 5th round trading up to go back and get him?
Well, right after they had taken Dylan Gabriel,
yes,
X amount of picks earlier. Yeah, we just need a hard knocks probably on that quarterback room.
I take that.
Deshaun Watson, a 5'11" Dylan Gabriel, and the sliding Shedeur Sanders.
Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco's on there too.
Flacco, right? Starter, I would think.
I'm still voting for the Giants quarterback room. That room is
You said the 5'11" Dylan Gabriel. How about the little hands of Kenny Pickett? So we got a large variety there. But, yeah, I don't know. Just seems like low ceiling, kind of an ass probably off the field. And when you play quarterback and you have those two boxes, and I think a lot of people are just like, all right, what's he going to look like when he's away from dad? When you add up all that, that probably contributed to the slide.
I think you're probably right. I just don't remember a player ever sliding so much. Somebody that there were actually legitimate draft prognosticators that had him as a first rounder.
Yeah, but I want to give a shout out to my guy at The Athletic, Dane Brugler. He had it pretty early. Remember we were talking about this? And because Dane, we were like, man, Dane said he could go anywhere from the 2nd round to dropping out of the first day. And I think after we get to the 5th round, maybe some of that is a bit of punishment, for perhaps the way he acted or whatever. Because I don't think that a couple of quarterbacks drafted ahead of him were better than him. But at the same time, when you're Deion, you can act a certain way and still get picked in the top 5 because you're Deion and you're that great. But his son was a really good college player, but not obviously to the level of he was. So I think he learned some lessons there, and hopefully this becomes a success story for him. And also, on a tangent, to the kid, the grown man rather, Jax Ulbrich, with the prank call to Shedeur.
21-year-old? Yeah.
No sympathy for you. I know everyone's like, oh, he made a mistake. No, you didn't. You did something that was pretty mean-spirited. So whatever you got coming your way, or whatever vitriol you get from the Shedeur Sanders lovers, that's on you. But yeah, enough of that. We can probably get into not Pacers, but Colts. 8 picks, KB. 1 trade back on day 3, which I think was a nice truce between the media and Chris Ballard.
I like most of what the Colts did. I thought they filled needs. KB, how would you grade the overall draft? Because I know your guy, Dane Brugler, didn't love it. He ranked them 27th out of the 32 teams. KB, what'd you think?
Yeah, I thought it was a little different from Chris Ballard. I mean, James pointed out the lack of the trade backs. I mean, it's pretty rare to go the first 3 rounds and him not trade back. I thought another thing that stood out overall about the class, it's probably the most accomplished college football class I can remember in Ballard's tenure. I mean, if you look at them, pretty much all of them are multi-year impact dudes at rather big schools. There's really, who's the project in this class?
Probably the later round guy just by default.
But if you look at all of them played. Tim Smith played, double-digit games for 5 years at Alabama. Riley Leonard, quarterback Notre Dame. I'm not saying they're all great players, let me be clear, but usually you get the small school crazy athletic tester who, barely flashed.
Take a fly on a guy.
Yeah, and they really didn't have that. The Wisconsin kid in round 7, Hunter Wohler, led them in tackles each of the last 2 seasons. So that I think is a little different. And, Ballard kind of said, this was after day 2, he was like, I know how it looks. I don't know if I'm necessarily trying to go for that, but it does have kind of that feel so far of them, again, going for, rather accomplished college players at, major schools. So I thought that stood out. I was very surprised that they went 230 picks without touching, and they didn't touch offensive guard at all. And then the 1 linebacker pick is going to be a position switch in Hunter Wohler, the 7th round pick. That was a little head scratching for me. I really like DJ Giddens, the 5th round pick out of Kansas State. I think he has got a resume that I was confused why. Frankly, he was still there at pick, whatever that was, 150, 160. And Lou Anarumo continued to get defensive help. I can't recall an offseason where the Colts have invested this much on the defensive side of the ball probably since Ballard's first year. I mean, you think about it, they've changed the scheme. I mean, that's a huge change, investment, however you want to describe it. You give out arguably the two biggest contracts in the Ballard era to Cam Bynum and Mooney Ward, and then you come back in the draft and two of your first three picks are on that side of the ball. I mean, those are four notable resources you've put into the defense, and that doesn't even include Anarumo changing the scheme.
To your point, Kevin, in order, here are the schools that were drafted by Chris Ballard this weekend. Penn State, Ohio State, Minnesota, Iowa State, Kansas State, Notre Dame, Alabama, Wisconsin.
And it's not just the schools. I mean, certainly the schools stand out, but again, Wohler led Wisconsin in tackles, each of the last 2 years. Certainly we can debate Riley Leonard and expand on it. He did, quarterback Duke 2 years that Duke has never really had. And then, certainly led Notre Dame all the way to the national title game. Again, Tim Smith for 5 years at Alabama played double-digit games. And Justin Wally in the third round, 4-year starter at Minnesota as well. So honestly, when you look at the pure resume, like Warren, just kind of 1 year of really playing. Granted, it was arguably the greatest season a tight end has had, hell, maybe ever in college football. He's kind of on the short end of the resume. So I thought that stood out to me.
Anything else that really popped to you for the Chris Ballard draft here, JB?
I want to hear you say the second-round pick's name on air. Have you practiced?
No,
I've been practicing.
Tui Mololau.
Oh,
yeah,
that sounds
Tui
good to me.
Moloau. Let's go.
All right.
Let's go.
You're gonna get a Reds ding from Mark Dykton on
That's
that.
what you get.
But
It's a double ding day.
It's about the same. Reds sweeping the Rockies and Jeff getting a name right. There you go. You get the good thing.
oh, dang. From the top rope.
Shot fired there.
But I did have him pronounce his name, though, when he got on the Zoom call because I was like, man, and I get it. We had the phonetic spelling of it, but I feel like I always botch those two until I hear the person say it. So I had to slow it down, sound it out. But I think he's also a really good player. I mean, the name is kind of funny, and I think he endeared himself very quickly to Colts fans by saying he played a round of golf. I think when he said that, he was like, yeah, I played around before I got drafted, kind of clear my head. You got Kevin going, let's go. Let's go. We got a little Tiger Woods fist pump in there, and I was thinking.
He gave us some detail, too. A little scramble action.
Yep. I think he said they shot a 79, so he
that
was.
That just proves he's a golfer. He can tell you about every shot.
Sure. Oh, yeah. I was like, all right.
And then he, had the relatable, man, the day before, my putts just weren't working, and I lost about 10 balls. And so he seems like he has a really good personality. And also, in a roundabout way, already had a connection with the Colts because when he was in high school, he trained with Zaire Franklin. I believe around high school, college. I have to kind of verify with him like when exactly he met Zaire. But it was before he got to the NFL, and they kind of bonded over the fact that he wore 44 at Ohio State. Zaire was 44 with the Colts, and it comes full circle is what he said.
And anybody that watched Ohio State this year, 44 just made plays, period. And he did it last year and the year before. I mean, I'd be hard-pressed to find how many guys, especially here as of late in college football, 3 straight first-team All-Big Tens. I mean, you typically don't see that, and let alone with that conference continuing to expand. So I thought defensive end, defensive line in general needed some early attention, so I was definitely good with that. I'm trying to think of like a little bit of a comparison. I don't know if Colts fans will take this, as a compliment, but I think there's a little bit of Kwity Paye in kind of his makeup and how you can kind of project him. But a big difference from Paye to Tuli Moloau is major production, frankly, at the Big Ten level. Whereas Paye, you're kind of like, wait a minute, why wasn't there more here? And I know that Paye went about 20 picks earlier than him. I think the Colts felt like that athletic testing would translate a little bit more than maybe it has. But certainly you need to rotate a whole lot, as we've talked a ton leading in the draft. Again, you don't have a defensive end under contract besides Latu after this season, so was good with that there in round 2.
Speaking of big schools, tied an NFL draft record. 14 Ohio State Buckeyes. You start 22, 14 got drafted.
Yeah, I mean, impressive stuff. Obviously, a hell of a program. The national champs, as they say, but, I mean, the guy that they got played his best ball, Tui Moloau, in the college football playoffs. I believe he had 6.5 sacks in their 4 games to go win the Natty. And, again, when you're playing your best football, when you're not going to get double-teamed, that matters. And I believe he was like the highest rated defensive recruit in Ohio State history. And to kind of deliver in that fashion with all that pressure and all that exposure, hats off to him. I'm excited to see what he does in Indianapolis, as well as the other guys too. I mean, they got some guys who I would imagine will have chances to play. And I'm curious to see how Justin Wally, the 3rd-round pick, cornerback out of Minnesota, slots into that cornerback room. Because, I'm not a genius here. It's very common knowledge. 3rd-round picks are expected to play sooner rather than later. So what does that mean for Jalen Jones, and what does that mean for Juju Brents and Sam Womack, other cornerbacks in that room? I know Chris Ballard mentioned they'll play more like dime packages, which for listeners means like 5 defensive backs out there, which they've done in the past. I mean, they usually start kind of in that base defense. But at the same time, does that mean you have to have more DBs on the roster that can kind of do more things? Or does that mean you really want to see if this guy can go out there and win the job over Jalen Jones?
And you take a look now at the offense, too. You add Tyler Warren, no question about that. You already have JT. You've got what they felt like is a pretty deep wide receiver room at this point in time. How do you look at the overall skill position heading out of the draft and into camp now?
Yeah, I mean, Warren was obviously the big ad, and certainly we talked a ton about that on Friday. I mean, I'll go back to DJ Giddens, the running back out of Kansas State in round 5. You know, I was kind of the thinking, hey, add a running back with a big-time kind of receiving element to his game. Giddens had a little bit of that at Kansas State. I thought he was pretty candid in saying, I definitely need to get better as a blocker, but, I also had a wrist injury early in my final season there at Kansas State that kind of hindered me as a blocker. What I was surprised by is he's big at running back, 6 foot 212, ran 4.4 in the 40-yard dash, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons at Kansas State. He tested very well at the combine. You don't typically see those guys last until pick 150, 160. Maybe a little bit has to do with the running back position as a whole, but it almost seems like he could be a guy that maybe gives you a little bit more of an actual, hey, I can come out of the bullpen and help you when Jonathan Taylor isn't on the field, which I think the Colts, A, have struggled in that area. And again, B, I thought a little bit more of just the specific, hey, can you be a 3rd down guy? It's probably unfair to label Giddens just as that. He really, again, had a resume that I don't typically see on day 3. Usually you see one of them knocked down. You don't have the size. You don't have the speed. You aren't the great tester. Maybe you didn't have the production at a Kansas State that some others have. And he really checked all those boxes. So I thought he was an interesting pick on day 3.
When you talk about balance, too, 8 selections, 8 different positions, tight end, edge, corner, offensive tackle, running back, quarterback, defensive tackle, and safety.
Question for you all. Are you surprised they did not go right guard or a guard in general at some point throughout the draft, Kevin?
Yeah, and I would throw even linebacker onto that mix. Yeah. I know Hunter Wooler, the last pick, is kind of safety hybrid linebacker. They're going to try and make that switch at the next level with him. Yeah, but just because that's Ballard's MO is offensive line. And, Jalen Travis, the 4th-round pick, he's like a triple major at Princeton. You need a paragraph to list everything that he accomplished academically at Princeton, then went to Iowa State for 1 year. His cousin Ross, for the diehard Colts fans out there, Ross Travis, a tight end back in, 2017, 2018, something around there. That is his cousin. Reed Travis played basketball at Kentucky somewhat recently. That's his brother. So comes from a big athletic, background. It sounds like he will be a tackle. Huge. One of the biggest dudes ever put on a Colts uniform when that happened. 6'8", 339. But, yeah, I was a little surprised by the lack of a guard just because, James, you didn't touch that at all in free agency either. And you lost, of course, Will Fries and Ryan Kelly. So, I thought the positional mock draft that I do each year on 107.5 The Fan, that there were a lot of, hits, if you will, at that. I thought tight end round 1. I thought D-line in round 2. Again, running back in round 5. Quarterback in round 6. But I had right guard and linebacker, both higher on the list, and we didn't see anything there. So that was a little head-scratching, certainly, on that front.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the season, and I had to create a depth chart, which will come out, I believe, sometime tomorrow. And I do have Matt Gonzalez projected as a starting right guard. Now, that is just me just kind of guessing as far as the decisions that have been made this offseason, because what other options you really have, to kind of shore up that position? But even then, I'm like, man, is that maybe putting a little bit too much on his plate potentially? Or if you have someone else coming in, do they have enough experience at that position? At this late in the game, if you sign a free agent, is that guy, ready to go, at this point? Because obviously most of the higher level free agents have already been signed. I mean, Will Fries did not wait until now to sign a deal. And then you look at linebacker as well. Jalen Carlisle, I would assume, is, at least on paper, the starting weak side linebacker. But there's questions, I believe more questions than answers when it comes to him as a player, because he missed 7 games last year due to injuries. And he is, going into his second year. And he did make a position change from safety to linebacker. There's a lot to learn there, and maybe the offseason will help him. And I do want to see, curiously, just how healthy he is because of the offseason shoulder surgery as well.
It's Fan Morning Show, 93.5, 107.5. The Fan. Pacers win last night in Game 4 of their Eastern Conference first-round series against the Bucks. Ran away with it, 129-103. They shot 60% from the field. They got up early, and again, like Game 2, every time Milwaukee came back, the Pacers had an answer every single time last night.
Well, and I thought the third quarter was just emphatic in being able to kind of step in their throat. You don't get many of those opportunities on the road in a playoff series to put a team away like that. And Friday night, they squandered it. They squandered it big time. Easily their worst half, probably their only bad half, frankly, of the series so far through 4 games. And I thought last night, Turner had the early dunk in the third. Neesmith, late quarter, had the block. I thought when the bench unit went in there, McConnell, Walker, Toppin, Shepard, I thought all of them honestly raised the level of play for Indiana. And I can't say enough good things about Miles Turner last night. I mean, both ends of the floor. And it wasn't just, hey, Turner was 5 of 7 from 3. Turner has nights like that where you can kind of chalk it up to a good night because he stretches the floor and he brings a Brook Lopez away from the basket. There are times where Milwaukee's switching, and all of a sudden it's a small on Turner, and that's kind of been an age-old question with them. If you throw it in there, can you take advantage of it? And boom, he scores on Kevin Porter last night. It's like, I just thought whether it was his scoring, whether it was him stretching the floor, whether it was his constant rim protection, I thought one of the best games I've seen from Turner, certainly in a playoff setting. So I know John will do it a lot coming up at 3 o'clock, but I want to make sure that we give major credit to the longest tenured Pacer.
Buddy of mine texted me in the middle of the game last night and said, "Oh, we're waiting for a major JMV sports arousal with Miles Turner tomorrow."
Man, the dunk he had on Giannis?
Giannis made a business decision.
My goodness. I mean, hell of a business decision, because that was amazing. And then on top of that, the bench reaction is they're like a college team. I'm seeing Thomas Bryant, he's growling and doing the hold me back. And I'm like, these guys are having the time of their life.
Going to have to hold back Thomas Bryant.
Exactly. And I think that is what endears people, at least this fan base. I know some fan bases might not like the Pacers and they say they're front runners, but I always say you got to be winning to be a front runner. And they've done that throughout this series. And on top of that, it feels like every time that somebody else has success, the other guys react as if it's their own success. And so when that happens, you get personalities that can gel a lot better. And I think Tyrese is the straw that stirs the drink. And then on top of that, the other guys are really stepping up. And, I saw a quote from Aaron Neesmith, and I believe this was Dustin DePierre and Tony East talking to him after the game. And Tyrese said something like, yeah, he'll die out there. And he was like, yeah, I would. And I'm thinking, stay alive. I enjoy you living on the court. But he gives that kind of effort every single night. And I think he's just a testament, too, to maybe sometimes your situation just has to change. Because, would he have became this with Boston? No. Does Boston regret moving on from him? No. They've won a championship since then. But I think him being in this space allowed him to blossom, and we're seeing the best version of Aaron Neesmith right now.
Also last night, I thought, other than the quick double technical where everybody was finding a dance partner to just kind of push on for a moment there in the third quarter. You saw Portis trying to muck things up and trying to get in the heads of the guys. I thought for the most part, Kevin, they just kind of smiled and like, yeah, whatever, dude. You leave me alone. Didn't you kind of get that vibe?
Well, I thought Neesmith did a great job, too. That would have been his second tech had he retaliated a little bit. I mean, Portis certainly is trying to start something. And I think Portis kind of knows, especially when Lillard went down last night. I guess for those that missed it, it happened early in the game where, I don't know, I'm sure a decent chunk of our listening audience was still watching. But Damian Lillard, early reports are a torn Achilles, just awful. I mean, it was 15-12 when he went down. Had all the signs of it. You seemingly knew. It was the opposite leg, for those curious, where the blood clot was. Certainly you think, okay, overcompensation from, him trying to get back. But yeah, I thought the Pacers have handled a lot of and again, they have chirped. I mean, the Pacers aren't, just being choir boys here, but they have walked. They have backed it up throughout this series, and I think they're going to run Milwaukee out of the gym tomorrow night. I like when the series schedule came out, I was like, oh, Tuesday, Game 5 will be the game the Pacers overwhelm them the most. It's the shortest turnaround between any games this series. Now you have Milwaukee back to ball handling question marks without Damian Lillard. They started third quarter last night picking them up full court. That needs to be the exact game plan tomorrow night. Pick them up full court, rely on your depth, run them out of the gym, send them to Cancun, and get ready for the Cavs.
It was a lot of fun to watch. I tell you guys a lot of times those late night games, I'll watch the fourth quarter back. Not last night. I watched the whole thing live right until the very end and even listened to a little bit of the post game. I was ready to go.
You were with the people. You were with the people.
That game meant something. And I know poor Mark, he watched the whole thing, and he gets up at like 4:30 every morning. That was
Went
impressive.
to bed at 12:15. The alarm rang at 4 a.m.
How was that morning this morning?
Not great. Not ideal, but there will be a nap in the future. You can bet your ass on that one.
I was going to sleep in until 5:30, but the dog had other ideas. He's like, nope, let's go. This is time. This is when we always get up. Come on.
I thought you were heading to the Goat and Caramel to celebrate last night.
That might not be a terrible way to go. So they're coming home for Game 5.
Yep.
Tomorrow night, forget the late start, 6 p.m.
Yeah,
start.
what are these start times? I mean, I'm not one to complain about start times because I'll just watch it whenever.
That's a nursing home start time.
Yeah, it's weird to me. I'm thinking to myself, I hope, all the fans are off work and get a chance to get down there because I feel like 6 o'clock sneaks up pretty fast on you as an adult. So that was really weird to me. I'm thinking about pregame. Rick Carlisle will be talking at like 4:30. Like, that is really early. Like, I feel like I'm getting ready to go cover like a doubleheader at a high school or something like that. But nevertheless, a chance to close them out and move on to the second round.
Well, it was a lot of fun to watch last night, and that place is going to be lit on Tuesday night. You heard Rick talking about the fact that he didn't know if he's ever heard a louder environment in his entire career than he had in Game 2, but tomorrow night might eclipse that. I think people are fired up and ready to go.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I can say it because I don't matter, but I'm just ready for Cleveland. I mean, I'm just done with it. I thought Pacers in 5 at the start of the series. They have easily been the better team. Yes, they have certainly gotten, injury help with this Lillard situation, but still, I think the Pacers would have handled the Bucks. And, if you look at the East in general, we've gotten obviously a great series, Knicks and Pistons, but, all of the home court teams are on the brink. All of them are at these 3-win marks right now, whereas the West, you have a lot different. Golden State tonight could go up 3-1. Obviously, we've talked about Minnesota and the Lakers. Probably I don't know if it's been the best series, but certainly the end of the game the other day was incredible between Denver and the Clippers as well. So, yeah, I'm ready for Cleveland.
Well, the lines seem to suggest that they think the series is over.
It's 7.5.
7.5.
I really.
You taking that?
I might like that. Yeah,
I think
like that.
I think the Pacers are going to blow them out.
Yeah, I do too. And the thing that was great about that game last night, regardless of Milwaukee clearly being overmatched by the very end, the strength of the Pacers was on display last night. They have so many different guys that can get it going. And on a night like last night, even when they're on the road, and I know Milwaukee is a man down, but 8 guys in double figures, everybody was getting it done last night. Everybody.
Yeah, I don't know how many times this year they've had 8 players being double figures. I mean, Jarris made some big shots yesterday. He looked like a grown man out there playing some important minutes. And then keep in mind, Mathurin wasn't available, and they still look like that. So I was like, wow, if you can get him back feeling good and maybe not even have to play him in Game 5 and get out this series pretty early, does that bode well for you for the future? Because I do think you'll need Mathurin in the next round for sure. But, going back to Milwaukee, questions will certainly loom over this franchise, the future of Giannis, and just in general. You extended your GM last week. Why?
We'll talk more about that series, more about the NFL draft, and anything else you thought of over the weekend. Feel free to give us a shout. 239-1070 is the number to call. It's a Victory Monday morning here at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
with KB, JB, and Jeff.
The Indianapolis Colts select
JT Tuimoloau, DN, Ohio State. Justin Wally, defensive back, Minnesota.
Jalen Travis, tackle, Iowa State.
DJ Giddens, running back, Kansas State.
Riley Leonard, quarterback, Notre Dame.
Tim Smith, defensive tackle, Alabama. Hunter Wohler, linebacker, Wisconsin.
That one was off balance. Lillard volleyballs it over, and Lillard goes down with an injury. He's grabbing his high ankle of the left leg.
He's putting no pressure on that foot, so not a good sign here from Milwaukee and Damian Lillard.
The league's best three-point shooting team. Milwaukee is staying in this game because of their three-point shooting. They're 8 of 16. Turn around the foul line. Got it to Toppin. Nobody within any kind of proximity. And he hits a three. The Pacers take it to the other end. Turner runs right into Antetokounmpo, and the bench rises to its feet as he threw it down. Nembhard drives it. He'll have to hurry. A 15-footer off target, right side. Great offensive rebound by Shepard. Out to Walker for three. Ben Shepard with a brilliant offensive rebound. Another wide open three. This time, though, it is not connected with as Halliburton left it off the front of the rim, and then Green a long pass. And what a play by Neesmith. Portis had a layup left edge, and Neesmith still down at the other end as Halliburton drives to the goal, scores, and draws the foul.
Did the overrated chance in any way fuel you these last two games?
Sure. I mean, it's all in fun. That's the beautiful part about our sport. Talk back and forth.
The team functioned so much better tonight, just in terms of our ball movement. And defensively, we were more locked in tonight. The next game is 6 p.m. on Tuesday. It's a quick turnaround, and we're going to need to be ready, and we're going to need our fans to have Gamebridge louder than it's ever been.
I'm a bad boy. Wanna front, who got your back? Wanna flex, who got the ice?
Another Victory Monday for the Indiana Pacers. We're getting a lot of those. Good morning, everyone. Welcome into the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, Jeff, Mark Dykton. Great job with the open right there. I think accurately summing up how things went over the last several days. Nice job out of you.
Thank you.
Think about this, Kevin Bowen. After the win last night, 129-103 in Milwaukee, where the Pacers take a 3-1 series lead, they have now won 17 of their last 21 games. This team is feeling it right now.
Yeah, and they have easily been the best team in the series. I mean, we want to break down the 8 halves so far, really outside of Friday night. That second half, they've been certainly the better squad. I thought, Halliburton, bounced back. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too critical of Game 3, but I thought I thought some of that kind of got to him Game 3. He had a couple air balls in that game. Last night, did he finish with a triple-double? He was close. I don't know if the rebound numbers got to that, but I thought he quarterbacked it well. I mean, you have a night with 36 assists. 36 assists is such an insane number, and certainly he is a huge catalyst in all of that ball movement. So I thought really, really good from him, commanding lead, and no Pacer player was better last night than Miles Turner. I mean, he was outstanding on both ends. He got you off to a great start offensively. I thought his rim protection was a huge nuisance for the Bucks all night long. And I know the Giannis stat line won't show it, but I thought they made life tough on Giannis early, which, again, you establish a double-digit lead. Certainly the Lillard injury kind of sucks the life out of the Bucks, and then you stepped on their throat in the third quarter, which you didn't do Friday night.
17 points, 15 assists, 8 rebounds. He came awfully close last night. He was getting it done. You talked about Miles Turner, and even his stat line, I don't think speaks to the game that he had. Yeah, he had 23 points, 5 rebounds. The block shots kept coming. He had 4 of those last night, but they came at big times, and they just made life difficult for the Bucks in the interior all night last night, James.
Yeah, I mean, that was special team defense, kept rotating, and also you have people who just make terrible decisions on the perimeter for the Bucks. It's like anybody that doesn't touch the ball and they're not named Giannis, it's a win, because Kevin Porter Jr., he got hot throughout that game in stretches, but I thought as the game went on, you saw some really just ill-advised shots and poor decisions. And then Kyle Kuzma, again, you just question how he was in a championship rotation at some point in his career. Maybe it's because he wasn't asked to do so much, but at the same time, he struggled last night. And it was 1-on-5 in that third quarter, where again, Giannis was dominant, but he's making twos and the Pacers are just making threes and getting stops. And so the math just checks out. Giannis is very, very dominant, but it doesn't hit you the same way as like if Steph Curry is going off, because it's like if Steph Curry gets hot, and obviously there's only one of him and one of Giannis as well, but if Steph gets hot, he can get you back in the game. You're down 15. He'll make 3 or 4 threes and you're right back in it. Giannis is more of like methodical, breaking you down. So if you build a big enough lead and then hold them off and keep making shots, it's just hard for that style of play to get you back in it if no one else is making shots either.
Yeah, and I just love the fact, Kevin, that they got out to another quick start and they put the Bucks on their heels, take the crowd out of it a little bit. I mean, the crowd got back in it for a second. I think it was a 12-point lead in the second quarter, and Milwaukee cut it to 6 all of a sudden. Crowd kind of was feeling it. There was a timeout taken by the Pacers. Really, other than that, it felt like the Pacers were in control about 95% of the time.
Well, I'll go back to that third quarter. And again, you have a double-digit lead. I thought Turner had this emphatic dunk, first possession seemed like, of the third quarter. You picked them up full court out of halftime. Again, without Lillard, I would certainly have that, full on tomorrow night in Game 5. But I can't say enough good things as well about the Pacers bench. Jarris Walker's a guy that he was out of the rotation in Game 3. He wasn't in the main grouping. He plays last night. I thought impacted the game really well. The numbers won't do it justice. I thought Shepherd gave them some really nice minutes, and McConnell and Toppin were outstanding as well. So, when your bench group, which again is certainly a strength of the Pacers, when they can play like that, especially on the road, because I think you get in these playoff series, where does Gary Trent Jr. have the career game? Well, it's at home. I mean, like these rotational role players, they can hit lightning in a bottle. Typically, it's in their own arena. So last night for the Pacers, again, and I would even throw a little bit of Turner into that category. I mean, Halliburton had the nice stat line. Siakam was fine. He wasn't like dominant Siakam or, what we're maybe used to from him. And yet you run them out of their own building and you have 36 assists and, you could kick your feet up in the fourth quarter and wait to see if James Johnson would get in the game. That's a huge credit to certainly their entire roster. And I don't think it's premature at all to say, start cheering for the Heat tonight. You want that Cavs series to go a little bit longer because I think the Pacers will run the Bucks out of the gym tomorrow.
I think you're probably right. Obi Toppin only played 14 minutes last night, but he had 13 points. Jarris Walker got 21 minutes last night, and he took advantage of it. It was a lot of fun to watch. And Portis Jr. was just being a clown last night for Milwaukee. Just trying to muck it up, being a clown. The whole thing after the double tech where he's like putting his shoulder and his head into the chest of guys and trying to get him to react. And they're almost looking at him like LeBron looked at Lance that time when he was blowing in his ear. Like, what are you doing? Stop.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you got to do when the talent and the execution isn't there. You got to figure out some other way to, I guess, generate some equity in the game. But
it was almost comical the way he was trying to do it.
They're not going to get bullied.
Well, I think they know it's over. And that's why you're seeing Portis take it to another level.
Yeah, because even the reaction you saw from Nesmith with Kevin Porter Jr., you never see Nesmith react like that. I know Tyrese can get into some, back and forth. Pascal's got some text, but Aaron Nesmith, by most accounts, is a pretty chill guy. And so seeing that reaction from him, I'm like, Kevin Porter Jr., what have you done?
Who gets tossed tomorrow? Porter Jr., Portis, or both?
Let's go all of them. Let's toss them both.
You could it's probably less than even money on Bobby Portis.
Yeah, I'd probably say Portis is
Did he get tossed in the clincher last year? I'm trying to think which one he got tossed. He got tossed in one.
It was one of those games, and then Kevin Porter Jr., I don't know, man. I watch him play, and he's talented. He definitely has, some skill. Wouldn't be in the NBA without it. Had a 50-point game in his career early. But that dude makes basketball look so hard.
Yeah, he's got some crazy to him, which again is
everything he does is just herky-jerky, one leg. I'm like, does anything you ever do like simple? Do you shoot a normal jump shot ever?
He's the girlfriend that you're like, oh gosh, is she texting me again? Which it's kind of a bad thing, kind of a good thing.
Anything like me, you're getting left on red, and that's basically what the Bucks have been getting this series. Left on red, and probably willing to pack a few more bags for this Game 5. That way it can just hit from Indianapolis. We have international flights now. So
sure, exactly right.
Or not even now. We've had it for years. You can go to Dublin if you want
Straight to Dublin, right?
You look at Kuzma last night too. Like, I don't know if he's in his own head. I don't know if he just can't play. I
He's
don't know
just
if it's a
not
combination
good.
of the two.
I don't think he's that good of a player.
But I mean, the strategy for the Pacers might just be whenever he has the ball inside the protected area in the paint, just let him shoot. You can't even make a layup.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he's struggling, and I mean, every decision that they've made that kind of led them to this point will be scrutinized. I mean, think about it. They blew up this team, got rid of Drew Holiday, sent him to Portland. He then goes to Boston. They win a championship with him. You get Damian Lillard. He gets hurt. You really haven't had him and Dame and Giannis in the playoffs together as a healthy unit. You trade Middleton for Kyle Kuzma. Yes, Middleton was injury prone, but you'd almost take, Middleton's broken down body over what you've seen from Kyle Kuzma because he's not good. So questions will certainly loom for that franchise, and it'll be funny to kind of look back at this chapter to see what role the Pacers played in blowing that team up.
You were saying off the air too, JB. You wouldn't be shocked at some point if Giannis is just like, I've had enough. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's a conversation I know Bucks fans don't want to have, but it's a real conversation. When you have a star player like that, he's not young.
And I don't blame him, to be clear.
Yeah.
I think they've done him wrong, frankly, with how they've built it around him.
Even the coaching changes, things like that, none of it's worked. And again, I know Bucks fans don't want to hear it, but he did bring you a championship, so you'll get a little bit of grace if you do want out. But, we'll see where that all goes. But Giannis is not like this 25-year-old guy. I believe he's, if he's not 30, he's close, and the clock is ticking. And also his style of play, I'm like, how long can he sustain that? I know he's been really great for a long time. But I don't think the whole age necessarily like the other stars. The jump shot still isn't all that great. It's better, but what does that mean? But for Pacers purposes, you're like, we don't care. Game 5 coming up tomorrow with a chance to move on.
The other guy that's been really quiet, I think, in this series that at times in the past has had his moments against the Pacers, but other than a couple of defensive possessions last night, like Brook Lopez was a non-factor last night completely. Especially if they're shorthanded, he's got to give him something, doesn't he? Some rebounding, something.
Yeah, I mean, who's their second best player been this series?
Who would you say?
I'm like, maybe Gary Trent Jr.
From a shooting perspective.
It honestly might be Portis, as crazy as he is.
He's hit a couple of big threes.
Yeah, I mean, so that's just I guess it goes back to probably what I said a week ago, sounding like a broken record. The Pacers have the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. I mean, we could go even further on the list in this series. I think that's abundantly true. I thought it was true at the start of the series, and I think it's played out that way here through 4 games.
To that point, Kevin, I saw this piece, and I meant to send it to you. A guy on Twitter posted it, Owen Phillips. I believe he's like a writer. But it was like this. The theory is that basketball is like a strong link sport, meaning like your stars, at least historically, can sort of decide who's going to win a series. So if you have a LeBron or a Michael Jordan, you're going to win. Whereas like a weak link sport is soccer, where if your worst player is out there, they're going to attack that worst player, and that is more of a difference in having the best player. And the theory is that with so much talent in the NBA now, you're starting to see it become a weak link sport. Like there are no players you can hide anymore. So even if your top player isn't a Giannis, if your worst player isn't a Kyle Kuzma, or rotation player isn't Kyle Kuzma, isn't Kevin Porter Jr., isn't some of these guys, that like kind of offsets what your star can produce. Like Giannis is going to be Giannis, but if your weak link is that bad, like if you don't have, I think the theory it was basically what you had thrown out there. If you have the best player, but your next 5 or 6 are not even close to being, the next players on that list, you're not going to win. Like, he cannot do it by himself. Like, it used to be like that where you can hide guys. I remember watching my first finals in 2004 with the Lakers and the Pistons. You got guys that can't shoot.
So young all of a sudden. My first finals is 2004.
I mean, look.
Mark's got a dot of gray in that
I'm thinking to myself, like, what you want me to tell my parents? They should have started a little bit sooner.
Yeah,
they enjoyed their life, man. But back then, at least, you had players out there that could not shoot at all. They would get played off the floor. But where now, I mean, if you're a smaller guard, they're going to hunt you every single play. If you can't shoot, they're not going to defend you. So playing 4-on-5 is not going to offset if you have like a really great person leading that 4. It just doesn't work. And so I think that's a great point that you kind of made. And I saw it again an expanded version. I was like, man, that's a really good point. Like, their supporting cast is horrible, and it will never change no matter what Giannis does. I mean, Giannis will have to score 60 points for them to win Game 5, and it won't happen.
Well, and again, we'll have so much time to talk about it, but I can't wait for next round. I think Indiana and Cleveland, and again, Cleveland has obviously had really a regular season, frankly, like no other in quite some time. But I think in a way they're kind of similar in that they just have great balance. I mean, yes, Mitchell and Halliburton are probably comps, and I don't know if you want to go to your second player, maybe it's Siakam and Mobley. I don't know. Some nights it's probably Garland. But, like, there is great balance. The bench units are very important. Ty Jerome has been huge for Cleveland all year long. So I'm really looking forward to next round. And the matchups, for the two teams being in the same division, it has none of the feel of Indiana, Milwaukee. We didn't really get to see these teams at full strength play each other this season. So I know Rick Carlisle would absolutely scold me for saying that. And at 8:15 tomorrow, he probably will not say any of that, but I'm allowed to because I don't coach the team.
Well, the other thing I want to point out, too, is Kevin Pritchard. We talk about him every once in a while, but, I mean, the two best players that the Pacers have right now, I think most people would concede, are Halliburton and Siakam, guys that were not drafted here, guys he found a way to go out and get, and they have played together. They play together well. They complement each other. He's put good pieces around them. This team complements each other well. They're well coached. This organization's done a really nice job of where they were 4 or 5 years ago, putting this team together and playing the way that they play.
I was there a few years ago when the news of the day towards the end of the season was whether or not Malcolm Brogdon would play through his Achilles tendonitis or something like that. And we all knew they were tanking. It is what it is. They lost the last 10 games of the 2021-2022 season. They did get Tyrese in that season, but it was pretty apparent that we're going to go out here and, if you got any other, bruises or you're bumped up, you're not going to play, and we're going to get a top 10 pick, and we're going to reset this thing. And you look up now, and every single decision you've made has pretty much paid off. I mean, the Neesmith trade has been. Well,
think about that offseason. You just brought it up there, James. Yes, you had already had Halliburton, but in a 2-3 week span, you draft Mather and Nembhard, and then you trade for Neesmith.
Yep.
And you got rid of Brogdon. So, those dumps, the salary dumps, LeVert gone, and Sabonis, obviously you traded good away and got good in return. We honestly should probably do a deep dive on just how all of that has evolved.
All right, we'll talk more about this throughout the morning. If you want to be a part of it, call us up, 239-1070. In the meantime, Mark Dykton, let's check it down.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Butler Bulldogs Basketball. 2025-26 season tickets are on sale now. Registration for iconic Hinkle Fieldhouse premium seats runs through May 31st. Don't miss Hinkle Magic. Visit butlersports.com/buy tickets.
Pacers win Game 4 in Milwaukee last night. It was late, 129-103 the final score. 8 different Pacers in double figures, led by Miles Turner with 23. They out-rebound the Bucks, 41-33. And Kevin, second-best player the Bucks have, Damian Lillard, looks like a torn Achilles. We'll find out later on today if that's what it was, but it sure didn't look very good. What do the Bucks have left at this point?
Nothing, frankly. They should probably just pack their bags for Cancun while they stay at the Conrad tonight. Awful scene. I think everybody that was watching it kind of knew full well immediately when he grabbed at that area of his leg, then put no weight on it. What was happening? He was 15-12 at that point. It was actually a pretty heady play by Lillard to, bat it ahead and try to create an extra possession for them. But, awful scene last night. And Miles Turner, outstanding for the Pacers. And their bench group, again, I thought was really key as well.
And, James, you were talking about the Bucks. They were their own worst enemy, even despite the injury to Damian Lillard, and the Pacers took advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you have guys taking and missing layups like Kyle Kuzma and Kevin Porter Jr. maybe getting a little overzealous after making some shots, it doesn't bode well for you. And then they kept Giannis somewhat at bay. He only had 28 last night. Slowed him down.
Game 5 tomorrow night, 6 o'clock at the Fieldhouse. Our coverage begins at 5:30 right here on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Also, all these series going 3-1 yesterday. The Knicks over the Pistons, 94-93. Once again, a 2-minute report where the official's like, yeah, our bad, we screwed up. Kevin. This happens all the time.
Yeah, Josh Hart committed a foul there on Tim Hardaway Jr. there late. Pistons fans very understandably irate. Boy, game 3 and 4. I mean, you get the split at Madison Square Garden, and then both of those games come down to the end. That was a huge shot by Karl Anthony Towns on the other end of the floor late in that one there. So it is looking like chalk will hold in the East. The top 4 seeds all will advance. Cleveland going for the sweep tonight over Miami.
Yeah, also in the East, the Celtics over the Magic 107-98 yesterday. Again, that's 3-1 as well. And out West, the Lakers couldn't stand up to the Timberwolves, 116-113. Lakers had a chance to tie at the end of regulation, but they couldn't get the shot to go down.
Yeah, that was just a weird game, and I think that their series is over as well. LeBron James and Luka, this pairing has not been as fruitful as Lakers fans would have hoped. The entire NBA is sad for them.
Hey, while we're talking basketball, too, Kevin, tell us a little bit more about Mr. Basketball chosen over the weekend here in the state of basketball. A terrific choice, I thought.
Yeah, Braylon Mullins, I don't think too big of a shock by any means. I know Trey Singleton leading Jeffersonville. Quite the impressive run there to the 4A crown. But Braylon Mullins, I think it was like 180 to 60-something on the votes there. And again, when you talk about the 2025 class, I mean, certainly he could have had some major competition had Jalen Harrelson stayed at Fishers, or Trent Sicily would have stayed at Heritage Hills. Both those guys go to prep schools, and Braylon Mullins, I'm sure, had plenty of suitors to do that as well. Stayed at Greenfield Central. I know team success-wise, he certainly would have wanted to go on a little bit of a deeper run than they did, but to win Mr. Basketball, to stay, I think is really, really cool. So credit to him. I don't know if he'll feel it at the age of 18, but I think one day he'll look back on it and hopefully be very glad he made the decision that he did.
James, he's headed to UConn. They're known for a little bit of basketball, too.
Yeah, he'll have a chance to play for a championship-level program. Took a step back this year, obviously, but he'll get some hard coaching, certainly from Dan Hurley. And then on top of that, I think he has a chance to potentially play one day professionally. I don't know about the NBA. We'll see, but he certainly is a very talented player and one of the best high school players I've ever seen in my life. When I went to see him a couple of times, I was like, this kid can shoot with the best of them, and he is as humble as they come.
All right, Major League Baseball, Cincinnati Reds complete the sweep, Mark Dykton, of the Colorado Rockies. 8-1 was the final score. Hey,
great job.
Reds now a couple of games over 500. Look out. Here they come.
Give him a little golf clap. That's what you're doing, Mark.
Oh, you beat a 4-win team. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So when's the parade?
Hang tight.
You're the one that hyped it up
Look
last week.
KD trying to take the high road.
I'm just here watching my team handle business.
Oh,
sorry,
that's
your
what they
Cubs
needed
couldn't do
to
the same over the weekend.
Well, I mean, they're playing actual teams that
Mark's threatening the Reds. If they don't sweep the Rockies, the Louisville Bats should come play for the Reds the rest of the season.
The Rockies were 4-20 to start the series.
They
you
just
should
took
have
care of
swept
business. Put their head down, clocked in, clocked out.
You're
Oh,
welcome.
Oh,
I like
my
to think that I
gosh.
gave them some motivation because I said you would rue the day on Monday had they lost a game. So you're welcome.
That is such a Mark thing.
Wow,
You're
really
welcome. I respect it.
He's going to take credit for it right there. That's how that goes. I love that about
They
Mark.
played well because I hated on them.
Bleep and pathetic.
Oh, man. Also, I don't know if you guys saw this over the weekend, but former Red Eugenio Suarez, 4 home runs in a single game and 4 at-bats. I miss him.
Is that pretty good?
I liked when he was the Reds, man. Yeah, that is really good. So, anyway, that was going on. Meanwhile, the Indianapolis Indians took it on the chin last night. They lost to the St. Paul Saints 5-3. Oh, yeah, I forgot. The Cubs lost to the Phillies yesterday in 10, Mark.
Oh, no, they lost the game. They got one of the best records in baseball. They're fine.
All right. Also, NASCAR yesterday, Austin Cindric wins the race at Talladega Speedway, and that's where we are setting up, getting ready for the month of May. Right here, right now, we got the Grand Prix coming up on the 10th. We got the 500 on the 24th, all the quals, Fast Friday, Carb Day, everything in between. You'll hear about it live right here all month long on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. All right, we've been talking about the Pacers quite a bit. Back to the NFL draft. How did the Colts do compared to the other teams in the AFC South? I'll ask our esteemed Colts writers here in a moment on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Well, we hope we got a lot of guys to love for the Indianapolis Colts as the draft completed over the weekend. Chris Ballard went to the big schools. We talked about that a little earlier. When you look at the Colts in context, Kevin, for the rest of the AFC South, and I guess we're all guessing at this point in time. We're all trying to make sense of what everybody did. What's your thought process on the other teams and what they did? Did they get better over the last 3-4 days?
I mean, you're one CJ Stroud injury away from this division, being wide open, and that's probably how I'd probably summarize the AFC South. I mean, I think we touched a little bit on Friday, James. I was super intrigued, and I respect the hell out of what Jacksonville did to trade up for Travis Hunter.
Did you respect the speech?
The GM?
Yes, the GM who gave the sermon.
I'll tell you what, I was like, I
like those. It's good
I don't
for
think
us.
I don't think I need to go to church here on Sunday with what's his name, James Gladstone. It sounds like a A-list actor here.
That was legit the name of my geography teacher in middle school, but he was like 40 years old.
Does it not sound like Hollywood?
It does.
And then all of a sudden you hear him talk, and you certainly are like mesmerized by it.
We are trying to push the boundary of football with Travis Hunter. He will take us to different galaxies, and I'm like, what is going on? Is he going to Jacksonville or is he going to the moon?
Travis Hunter's like, it went from Travis Hunter's like, it went from Dion to this guy. Quite the same there, honestly. But Trevor Lawrence is on a fringe period with a new regime. It's like, okay, is he the guy? Is he not the guy? And let's make an attempt in all seriousness at a generational talent. And if he can impact at receiver, boy, him and Brian Thomas Jr., quite the duo. But largely, I still think it's a Joker division, and certainly Tennessee will try to start it up with somebody different. And Houston traded out of round one. For those that missed it, they ended up taking 2 wideouts and an offensive tackle. I think those were definitely positions of need for them, but I largely think if CJ Stroud's healthy, Houston will win it for a 3rd straight year, and if he's not, then all of a sudden you've got a little bit of an open door.
Titans were graded by Dane Brugler as having the 8th best draft over the weekend. Of course, they went with Cam Ward, the number 1 pick overall. And depends on if he develops into a quarterback, because that's the one big thing, the glaring omission that they have had. Like, not even adequate play at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, they tried it with Will Levis a couple years ago. That went terribly. I mean, I felt like after every game, is it Brian Callahan? Is that their coach? After every game, it felt like he was just ripping Will Levis in front of the media. Like, why would you do this? And then on top,
one more time, I just think acoustically it's such an underrated clip.
And then on top of that, when you look at just a reset at quarterback, Cam Ward was widely viewed as like the only real first-round quarterback in this year's class. I know the Giants traded back up to take Jackson Dart, but he won't start in New York. So we'll see how it goes, and obviously we'll see it up close and pay attention to a lot more closely than the rest of the league because they're in the AFC South.
James, what did you make of Riley Leonard?
I thought he looked like he was 14 when he got on the Zoom call. He had the shirt and the hat. I've seen the hat many times because most players just have a bunch of hats. The shirt looked like his mom bought it from Walmart, and he was wearing it for like.
No, he said he only had one other team's gear, right?
Yes.
He was that confident the Colts would take him.
And it was the Ravens, and I was like, okay, like, is it because of these teams? Do they want scheme-wise the dual threat quarterback? But I mean, it's an interesting pickup. I didn't think much of it. I didn't like hate or love the pick. I just felt like, okay, you needed a QB3. And I know people, a few people out there are like, Jason Bean. I don't even think he was ever on the active roster last year. So I would expect Riley Leonard to kind of be a developmental player. But it is like kind of a sneaky, significant pick because of the injury history with the 2 guys ahead of him who are duking it out for the starting job. So, if one of them goes down, in that scenario, Riley Leonard would be literally one more play away from being on the field, and that is something to keep in mind. But I don't know. You probably watch him a lot more than me when it comes to his college tape as a Notre Dame fan. And the games that I did watch, I was like, this will work in college, but I don't know how that's going to translate to the pros, and he's going to have to read defenses a lot better. I do know that. I mean, the guy sometimes cannot anticipate throws, and that's all the NFL is when it comes to making decisions. Well, not all it is, but it's a huge part of completing passes.
Well, I think that's a great way to sum it up, how you just did there, of what he got away with in college. You aren't getting away with that at the NFL level. obviously I'm very happy that Notre Dame made it to the national championship game, and I thought Riley Leonard's toughness and dual threat ability was on full display, but that's probably where I stop with the Riley Leonard compliments, honestly. You listen to the draft call between him and Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen, like I can see why the Colts, who pride themselves on, football character, et cetera, why they were foaming at the mouth about Leonard. But let's kind of look at the Riley Leonard profile. He's 6'4", 215. That is great frame for an NFL quarterback. Again, he can make plays with his legs. Go back and watch the opening drive against Ohio State. That is toughness personified on that opening drive. He has character that, again, Marcus Freeman would talk about this dude endlessly. Shane Steichen and, Chris Ballard probably pray that, Anthony Richardson could take an ounce of what Riley Leonard brings to the table. So he has size, dual threat ability, toughness galore, character you love, plays the most important position in sports, and he lasted till pick 189. That tells you everything you need to know about him as a thrower. Tells you everything you need to know. He can't throw. I mean, I don't know. Like, at times I was like, man, am I watching like the white Anthony Richardson here play quarterback for Notre Dame this past season? Like, that's how I felt with him. And that, I think, is what makes this such, it's day 3, so I don't want to make too much out of it, but it's like, where does he get the reps to develop as a passer? I thought he was pretty honest with us, James. He's like, I got to be better at operating out of the pocket.
Yeah.
He said that on the conference call. Mm-hmm. Where are those reps coming? And I think that's the difficult thing about day 3 quarterbacks. How should you treat it if you're a team? Do you draft the Ellingers or the Curtis Rourkes of the world? Rourke went about 40 picks after to the 49ers. Do you draft those guys that are pretty much finished products? You know what they are.
That's their ceiling.
They're safe.
Yeah.
They keep you afloat, blah, blah, blah. Or do you draft the higher ceiling guy where, yes, again, Leonard checks so many of these boxes. And if he could, hit singles and hit layups and not have, horrific interceptions when the game's on the line against Northern Illinois and USC, then all of a sudden do you feel like or even Penn State, do you feel like there's something there with him? So, a third quarterback, yeah, him and Jason Bean, I mean, they'll compete for it. They'll be one play away. It's pick 189. I'm not going to make too much of it. I probably was a little bit more in the Rourke camp than the Leonard camp, just based off what you need. But I think it's a lot of flavor of what you want out of a day 3 quarterback. Do you want the higher ceiling or do you want the safer one?
One of my favorite picks also over the weekend, 4th round selection, your linebacker from Notre Dame. I love him.
Jack Kaiser going to Jacksonville?
Jack Kaiser. I love that pick.
Yeah, so he went a little earlier than I felt like some of those mocks had him. So, yeah, he is Jacksonville. C.J. West and Curtis Rourke, I think both with the 49ers. And Marcus Bowe from Purdue went to the Giants. And I think that pretty much. Obviously, Kenneth Grant, James, your guy from Maryville, went to the Dolphins. Josh Fryer from Beech Grove signed with the, I think it was the Cardinals. Where'd the New Pal kid go? Forgot about that New Pal safety.
While you're looking that up, former Indiana linebacker Jalen Walker signs with the Raiders. James Carpenter signed with the Jaguars. Tight end Zach Horton with the Lions. Former Indiana football offensive lineman Trey Wettig signs with the Rams. And wide receiver Miles Price signed free agent with the Minnesota Vikings. Keshawn Williams, the wide receiver, signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So busy weekend.
Max and Huck went to the Eagles. Undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
The safety from New Pal.
Not too shabby.
No.
Just go with the Super Bowl champs.
Right.
We like that. And the Bears, I thought, had a nice draft. Mark, you got to be happy with that.
Yeah, wasn't bad.
What was your favorite, aside from the obvious, to getting the tight end on day 1, what was your favorite part of the draft for the Bears?
Ben Johnson being the head coach. That's fun because he's just getting jacked and signing all these guys. I'm like, I can't wait to see what this offense is going to look like with him. And then Dennis Allen is the defensive coordinator, so you got some defensive help there. So, yeah, I like that Ben Johnson's getting his dudes. So I'm like, okay. And Ben Johnson, we trust. Let's see what happens in the fall.
I know that was a Friday convo, Mark, that we had it, but just kind of put a bow tie on things. And I thought Chris Ballard accurately said it. He felt like kind of, roster flavor, why the Bears would have gone Colston Loveland at 10 versus Tyler Warren. He compliments Cole Kmet a little bit differently. Ben Johnson also mentioned he felt like he sees some Sam Laporta in Colston Loveland, which, again, is probably more of a receiver first than kind of going in the blocking mode. So For those that listened to the show on Friday, that was kind of a big topic we had of, okay, why would the Bears have gone Loveland at 10 versus Warren? I think those are some of the reasons why.
And Loveland was on Chicago radio, and he did say the Colts were one of the teams that he thought he could possibly go to. He said there's the Bears, the Colts, the Chargers, and there's one other team, but he said the Colts and the Bears were the two teams he thought he could go to.
So how much does all this benefit whoever the quarterback is for the Indianapolis Colts, JB?
I think it's obviously a huge pickup to add a guy like Tyler Warren. But at the same time, I'm like, man, hearing Shane Steichen talk about him, he puts his hands up, you just throw it to him. And I know he's great at one-handed catches. I believe Dane Brugler had it where he had more one-handed catches his senior year or his final year at Penn State than drops. And I'm like, that might come in handy because the passes you might be getting might not be, that accurate, to be honest with you. But I do think that it should give you a security blanket over the middle. He's a rugged guy, should definitely be someone who helps in the run game as well. He immediately slots in as your starting tight end, but again, I just worry about the quarterback play, as we all do, because the two guys who are competing for the starting job are coming off bad 2024 seasons. I don't think there's any other way to put it. You got one guy, and Anthony Richardson, who had the lowest completion percentage in the NFL last year, 47.7%. It is ingrained in my brain at this point. And then you have, I believe, Daniel Jones, who went 2-8 as a starter in New York before being benched, released, going to the Vikings, and then joining the Colts. So neither one has played good football as of late. So it doesn't give you a lot of confidence that suddenly everything's going to change in 2025 because, in one hand, Daniel Jones, you're with a new team, and then with Anthony, you're, as he put it, feeling like a rookie again. I just don't know what to make of it, but we'll certainly be all eyes on it as soon as we see them get out there on the grass and start competing in training camp.
One team that has been – go ahead, Kevin.
I was just going to say, again, I know we talked a lot about it on Friday, Warren, but the versatility really stands out to me, the ability to line him up at so many different spots on an offense. I think it shows you, honestly, the mental makeup of him as much as the physical gifts, that he's able to handle those sorts of responsibilities. And his ability to take the simple throw, which, again, I know with the Colts, simple is probably not the word to use, but to take the simple throw and say, all right, it's a high percentage toss from Drew Aller, I'll turn 5 yards into 15. Whereas you don't have to say, no, I need that 15-yard ball threaded through the second level of the defense and, right here in a perfect position to make run after catch. Warren, oftentimes, a la little Rob Gronkowski, he threw dudes out of the club in his ability to shed tacklers and to create plays after the catch, really as a just bully ball, frankly. That, I think, is also very attractive. Now, again, can he do it at the NFL level? But certainly to produce like he did in one of the best conferences in all of college football, certainly stands out.
All right, coming up in a moment, one team that's playing very well right now, the Indiana Pacers. They have been a shining light in what has been a very entertaining NBA playoffs. We'll talk about their big win last night. If you stayed up late, you'll know what we're talking about. If you had to go to sleep, we'll get you all caught up as we continue on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Good morning, everybody. In a good mood today after staying up late last night. Mark is working on about 90 minutes of sleep, and you're still in a great mood. I like that.
I aim to please.
I mean, we even got a ding for the Reds beating the Rockies today.
That's all you needed. You beat the Rockies, took care of business. Congratulations. Move on.
Taking care of business. That's what the Indiana Pacers are doing right now, James. Boy, they are taking care of business.
Yeah, I think they're going to close it out tomorrow night at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. It is a gold out. I will shame you publicly if you don't wear the shirt, so just be aware of that. I will be perusing the sidelines before the game, and if you are too cool for the shirt, get out, please.
You going to be wearing a shirt?
I'll let you put that. I'll let you put that together.
Just throwing it out there. If you're gonna be coming down on people, I'm just asking.
Yeah, well, I would like to stay employed. So, I mean, if you got any other ideas, I mean, if you want to,
I've been there. I hear you.
If you want to, slide some money this way, Jeff, just say so. I mean, I love my job, but I don't love working. So, if you want to retire me early, I'm here for it.
We just want to retire the Bucks early, don't we? Just get it over with and done and move on, Kevin.
I think the Pacers will run him out of the gym tomorrow. Yeah, I thought at the start of the series, this was the game that Indiana, I thought Pacers in 5, so obviously I thought the Pacers would win, but especially because it's the shortest turnaround. I mean, you look at it, the game ended around midnight last night, 6 o'clock tomorrow. There is, there's travel for both teams, but who does that favor? It favors the Pacers. Which team has had the better supporting cast? It's easily the Pacers. Which team is willing to play more players and trust more players? It's easily the Pacers. And then you factor in last night the very unfortunate scene of Damian Lillard going down. You want to test their ball handling, test Ryan Rollins all of a sudden being back in the series, make Kevin Porter Jr. be consistent. Kevin Porter Jr. is volatile as hell. It can be really good, but it can also be really, really bad. Pick him up full court. So, I think it's a recipe for the Pacers to blow them out, advance, and cannot wait for next round with Cleveland.
All right, Mr. FanDuel, 7.5-point spread.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pounding the over on that. What are you thinking? I like the Pacers easily covering that.
Yeah, I think that you're right on that one because I think the loss of Lillard was just an emotional blow to the Bucks, and I think they've kind of like, all right, that was it. That was our best shot yesterday, and now Lillard going out early, that we're kind of death knell. So yeah,
it's going to be a lot of fun. I think that place, especially first half, is going to be jacked. They're going to welcome their team home. They're fired up over last night. We saw how electric that place was in Game 2. I don't expect one little drop off at 6 p.m. tomorrow night.
6 p.m. That sounds so weird of a start
One
time.
for the nursing home tomorrow night.
I'll go have dinner with my mom tomorrow night and watch the game from her place.
You know what?
This is for you, blue hairs. Raise the roof.
I was going to say, is it kind of like the Tyler Warren draft reaction that we saw, which wasn't the real reaction from what I've put together, but initially we were in the room.
I want it to be the real.
That was pretty funny because we were all like, does he know he's getting drafted? Does he know this is the biggest moment of his life? And we're all sitting there like, where's the confetti? Where's the balloons? It's just a bunch of people sitting around like they're watching, I don't know, paint dry or something like that. But he seems to be an all business character to kind of pivot to Colts a little bit. His dad walked in, and I'm like, wow, that's the hitman as they called him back in the day. And I'm just picturing little Tyler Warren watching John Riggins film at 8. Like, that's the blueprint clearly, Kevin. So Max Bowen, you got some time, but pretty soon, man. It's going to be like, what is it, Adrian Peterson tape or something like that? Somebody who's I'm thinking of like new era runners who are like, tough guys. But that was pretty funny to think about.
Dial up some Jeremiah Love after that run against Penn State.
Exactly.
It was a lot of fun to watch last night. Well, we're staying up for it. I didn't have any problem with that whatsoever. And it was a 129-103 victory with 8 Pacers in double figures. And I go back to something I said earlier. Kevin, I think this was the best of the Pacers on display. They can hurt you in so many different ways from so many different people, and it was all on display last night.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it was, 1 to 10, 1 to 11 effort, but I do want to commend the longest tenured Pacer. I thought Turner was just outstanding on both ends. When you get into these games, there is that just uncertainty early on, and, when Lillard went out, it was 15 to 12, so it was still certainly close, but Turner was really your catalyst through the first handful of minutes of this game. And, he hasn't been maybe uber consistent in this playoff series. So I thought He was tremendous both ends of the floor, and then your bench. When you think about road games in the playoffs, I'm always curious, how will your others play? How will your rotational guys react to, different atmospheres, road environments? I think the Bucks you saw in Game 1 and Game 2, they largely didn't handle that. And really in Game 3, I didn't think the Pacers handled that very well, certainly in the second half. But I thought McConnell, Toppin, how about Jarvis Walker? He was out of the rotation in Game 3. And he played last night and played really meaningful minutes. For those that missed it, abdominal contusion. Benedict Mathurin went down late in the Game 3 loss to the Bucks. Rick Carlisle said afterwards last night he had trouble sleeping, trouble eating the other night, was feeling a little bit better. But I don't know. Hearing that report, I'm starting to think, well, do you just sit him out tomorrow night? And then, I don't know, when would Game 1 of Cleveland, Indiana be? Like this coming weekend maybe?
Probably Friday or Saturday, I would think. Saturday maybe. You mentioned those three: Obi Toppin, Jarvis Walker.
Yeah, I should mention Obi too. And I think Shepard. I know Shepard's stat line won't do it justice, but James, Rick has gone back to him a little bit more. We know Rick's a huge fan of him. And again, I don't know if the stats indicate it, but I do think I just noticed Shepard more than
I feel like he always gets
others.
a little like offensive rebound or a loose ball, or he's pressuring the ball. He's doing like little things that maybe
his on-ball defense leads to something else.
Exactly. And then he did make a few shots yesterday as well, which should give him more confidence going forward, because I think that's part of the reason why sometimes you aren't able to play him in certain situations, because he hadn't shot it well as of late, at least towards the end of the regular season. But again, made some shots yesterday because it seemed like every Pacer made shots yesterday in a game like that.
Yeah, I was going to say those three that you mentioned on the bench: Toppin, Walker, and McConnell. 40 points combined off the bench for those three last
McConnell was great too. I mean, was it Ryan Rollins got in the game and immediately TJ McConnell pressures him like I'm at an AAU tournament. What's the place that they used to have, the Spiece? It's just like you're going off the
Fieldhouse.
Yeah,
baby.
it's just like going over there and seeing a guy pick you up at 8 a.m.
Municipal Gardens on us here.
Exactly. So that's what it reminded me of. I'm like, well, how many times do you see an NBA player get full court pressure and turn it over like that? I mean, I was like, wow. Like, I could just hear my uncle or my dad saying, this dude can't dribble. And that's basically what TJ McConnell proved to us and kind of said, hey, the young guy, if you're going to get in this game, you're going to have to work. And so
it goes back to Rick's convo with us. We asked him about it a couple weeks ago about McConnell picking up full court and how it seemingly leads to something nightly. And yeah, that to me would be the game plan tomorrow night. You pick them up full court. Again, it's the short turnaround. It's the ball handling question. They're in your own building, because that gets everyone going. James, you've talked about it endlessly. It's like a college bench watching the Pacers react. That
Thomas
gets
Bryant, love you.
Everybody going on the bench, and that gets the crowd going. I mean, we are, obviously I'm going to brag, and I think it's true. I mean, our state, we kind of get off to that stuff of like, look at the full court pressure, look at the diving on the floor, like all that stuff. I mean, certainly Purdue.
I will say, I thank God there's a shot clock in the NBA. At times, I'm like, there isn't always this pressure, KB. I've seen a lot of zone over the years, but yes.
Four corners in the high school ranks, but I think there's a lot to that for the Pacers.
All right, coming up in a moment was a big weekend for the NFL draft. One announcer lost his mind. Maybe 40 years in the making. We'll tell you about that. Get some thoughts there where the Colts, as we head into OTAs and mini camps and things like that, it's all straight ahead. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
The Indianapolis Colts select
JT Tuimoloau, DN, Ohio State. Justin Wally, defensive back, Minnesota.
Jalen Travis, tackle, Iowa State.
DJ Giddens, running back, Kansas State.
Riley Leonard, quarterback, Notre Dame.
Tim Smith, defensive tackle, Alabama. Hunter Wohler, linebacker, Wisconsin.
That one was off balance. Lillard volleyballs it over, and Lillard goes down with an injury. He's grabbing his high ankle of the left leg.
He's putting no pressure on that foot, so not a good sign here from Milwaukee and Damian Lillard.
The league's best three-point shooting team. Milwaukee is staying in this game because of their three-point shooting. They're 8 of 16. Turn around the foul line. Got it to Toppin. Nobody within any kind of proximity. And he hits a three. The Pacers take it to the other end. Turner runs right into Antetokounmpo, and the bench rises to its feet as he threw it down. Nembhard drives it. He'll have to hurry. A 15-footer off target, right side. Great offensive rebound by Shepard. Out to Walker for three. Ben Shepard with a brilliant offensive rebound. Another wide open three. This time, though, it is not connected with as Halliburton left it off the front of the rim, and then Green a long pass. And what a play by Neesmith. Portis had a layup left edge, and Neesmith still down at the other end as Halliburton drives to the goal, scores, and draws the foul.
Did the overrated chance in any way fuel you these last two games?
Sure. I mean, it's all in fun. That's the beautiful part about our sport. Talk back and forth.
The team functioned so much better tonight, just in terms of our ball movement. And defensively, we were more locked in tonight. The next game is 6 p.m. on Tuesday. It's a quick turnaround, and we're going to need to be ready, and we're going to need our fans to have Gamebridge louder than it's ever been.
I'm a bad boy. On the front, who got your back?
Boy, one thing Rick Carlisle pointed out in that postgame last night of a 129-103 victory for the Pacers over the Bucks, that the ball movement was electric at times last night. JB, that thing was whipping around.
Yeah, it was like me way back in the day watching the prime Spurs, when it was on like you didn't have HD back then. Oh, my gosh, it was terrible, but it was a lot of ball movement. And honestly, it marries to what the Bucks do very poorly, which is guard anybody. So you make two passes and it's like, oh, here's a layup, here's an open three. And that kept happening over and over and over again. Even when the Bucks' offense got going, they started making shots, they couldn't stop anybody. You can drive a car down the lane and go score. So I think they have a lot of questions to answer, not only for Game 5, but just overall, assuming they lose the series.
60% from the field. You'll take that in a playoff game, huh?
Certainly, and 36 assists. I mean, that's got to be, I don't know, it got to be right up there with one of their highest of the entire season. So, yeah, James, I was nodding my head throughout what you were just saying there of largely, if I could sum up this series through 4 games, the Bucks can't guard the Pacers.
We are going to talk
about the Pacers got to make sure that they test you in that. And to your point, you get 2-3 passes, you swing it to each side of the floor. You're able to, I think, further, create cracks in their armor, if you will. And I don't know, the armor seems pretty weak right now for the Bucks. So I thought the ball movement outstanding. And like you brought up earlier, I mean, it was a question we asked Rick Carlisle last Tuesday of, tracking the passing number and, how important that is for this team. I really think it's something that, I don't know if it's through osmosis or what, but I think these guys love to move the basketball, and certainly last night was a great example of it.
Well, Game 5 comes your way tomorrow night, 6 p.m., early tip time. If you're just joining us, we've been talking about that all morning. Let me go from the very late tip time to the very early tip time. But we'll start our coverage at 5:30 right here on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. I got to stop and check something out, though. Mark Dykton, do you and JB have beef this morning? Is there something going on back and forth over the computers during the breaks here? Something's going on.
I don't think so.
That's not what I heard just a moment ago. JB,
yeah,
what
we got Jeff snitching again, but it's I brought up where's Tyler Warren just to troll Mark, and he told me, we did that on Thursday, we did it on Friday's show, James, and so gave me a little grace there for sure.
The montage is for the people that missed it over the weekend. Lots of stuff happening on Friday. We didn't have a show. Saturday didn't have a show. Sunday didn't have a show. It's a recap of the weekend.
To be dead honest, it feels like I just teleported from like Thursday morning till now. Because that's what I feel like I've had any time to even go home. I spent more time at the Colts facility than probably my own apartment this past weekend. But great job as always.
No gripes for me, Mark. Great work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
thank you, Kevin.
It was fantastic.
It was fantastic.
I enjoyed it. But I got to hate a little bit. It's in my nature. I can't, you want me to change all of a sudden?
Didn't you also do a fever story over the weekend, too?
I stopped by their practice yesterday to talk to a couple of players. I'll talk to them again today. Caitlin Clark will speak for the first time in the 2025 season. So I'll probably have a story off of that because obviously when she speaks, it's a story. I don't want that fame ever, but she handles it very well.
This is for you, James.
With the 14th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Tyler Warren, tight end, Penn State.
There, now we're all caught up.
I mean, going into the draft, that's the only player I knew. That's the only player Indianapolis would allow me to write about. But no, it was a good haul to me. To Kevin's point earlier, I think there's a lot of players beyond Tyler Warren that have like high floors probably. And, you wonder about the upside with some of these guys. But I mean, you got guys who have a ton of experience playing high level football, gaining a lot of moments in big games as well. So we'll see how it shakes out pretty soon here, as well as them solidifying their undrafted free agent class, which I know people are always interested in as well.
So I know you guys are taking grenades a lot, like throughout the weekend with draft coverage and stuff, but there's anything like after like everything, the dust settled and stuff, have you looked at the Colts roster and like, yeah, there's still a hole there that I thought they would have taken care of and they didn't, and now that's going to be something that maybe we circle back on in training camp.
Guard, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go to right guard and linebacker, both of those spots. They're putting a lot of stock right now in Jalen Carlisle's fifth-round pick last year out of Missouri. Again, made a position switch from safety to linebacker. I thought there was a flash or two as a rookie, but I also can't ignore he had two separate, pretty serious injuries, fibula and shoulder, and the shoulder will knock him out of this, it sounds like, the entire offseason program. So, Zaire Franklin is all of a sudden, you're making an indispensable Colt list. You might put Zaire Franklin 1 or 2 on that list there. So, I was surprised that they didn't go a little bit more offensive guard either at any point, really. The one offensive lineman they took, Jalen Travis, thought he's a tackle. 6'8", 339, just absolutely massive. And tackle is where he has played collegiately. So, yeah, James is an exit. And again, they do have cap space. They could do something. We see late April, May signings around the NFL. They don't do their first 11-on-11 work until, a month from now? So they could do something else. But you listen to Chris Ballard, I don't know if he talks very urgently about either of those two positions.
No, and when I was looking at, again, I had to do a depth chart, which will come out, I believe, tomorrow on The Athletic, so check that out. It basically goes position by position. Here's where they stand after free agency in the draft, and to your points that we've been making, what's the strengths, what's the weaknesses, where are the holes, and a couple more I'll throw out there that aren't like huge deals, but you don't have much depth at safety if one of your top guys, Nick Cross or Cam Bynum, goes down. I know Rodney Thomas has some experience playing both strong and free safety, but beyond that, Marcel Dabo never played a snap in the NFL. Daniel Scott has been injured the last 2 years, hasn't played a snap in the NFL. And then also kicker. I get it. Spencer Schrader's your new kicker, but I'm curious to see what undrafted free agents they bring in.
Look, I got a kid from Temple who made a 64-yarder and a 60-yarder in college.
Wow, that's incredible. And obviously, if you can bring that power and that accuracy, some accuracy,
Maddox.
You'll make a lot of money.
Maddox,
they called him
Trujillo, if I'm saying that
Otto
correct.
Maddox was his nickname. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah,
but
it's kind of a dangerous nickname.
Yeah, I'm thinking, man.
Otto Maddox?
I hope it's not, ironic, your nickname. But again, Spencer Schrader made 5 kicks last year, none of them from beyond 50 yards in the NFL. So, yes, while he made all 5 of them, there isn't a large sample size there to kind of, piggyback off of. And then, again, going back to linebacker, who's behind Zaire? Well, first of all, Jalen Carlisle started 6 games last year. Obviously, Zaire started all of them, I would assume. And then beyond that, you got Segun Alubi, 2 starts in his career. And then I believe the rest of the room is either practice squad guys or special teamers. So you're really putting a lot of pressure on Zaire and Carlisle to hold it down. And, in an ideal world, you're like, yeah, they're our starters. They'll be there all year. But we know injuries arise. Even a guy like DeForest Buckner, who hadn't missed a game basically in almost his entire career, he ended up on IR last year because of a fluke play and an injury. So I think they have to kind of bolster some spots for sure.
And they did pick a quarterback, Kevin. There are a lot of people online that would like to see you now in celebration run around. I don't know why, without your shirt. I don't understand this thought. I don't understand the desire for that.
Man, my boy KB been in the gym.
There are
with the
apparently
Speedo
some people,
on or just the shirt off? Because I can make some things happen. I mean, have you seen the weather today?
This is true.
Speedo weather, folks. There will be no shrinkage.
I walked in here once. I saw you with your shirt off. I'm like, I'm good. I turned around and left. So I don't know. We're okay.
I know. I kind of feel bad. Like, I've had so many people say since the Colts drafted Riley Leonard, like, oh, man, aren't you thrilled? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well.
I think you
have thrilled with him as a quarterback for Notre Dame to begin with.
I mean, don't you want me to be honest, right? And not be a fanboy
national
about this?
championship game.
No, I think it's because you're a fan to a degree, of at least of the team Notre Dame, because you've watched every game, whereas I haven't. So I've seen him in, a lot of big games the last couple of years, and it's like, oh man, like they got it done. He showed some moxie, as Mike Lacey, one of the Colts scouts, said. But when you watch like every single game, I think you have a better understanding of who he is as like a total player versus, the general fan like me seeing him in the bigger games.
Mark could probably find 30 clips of me throughout the playoff run saying, can an opposing team make Riley Leonard throw the ball in the fourth quarter? Like, that was like the thing. And when you go back and you watch those games, a consequential throw in the fourth quarter, not a lot of it happened. When you think about the Penn State game and they won, they had a huge interception that put them like right into field goal range. The Georgia game, which they iced, it was Leonard's legs. I mean, incredible effort to stretch that game. You could look at the Ohio State game. Yes, certainly he helped them get back in that game. Obviously, Indiana was
he had a really good game. That game, though, I will say, at least on paper.
But kind of backdoored his way. If you go back and you watch that game, and again,
fair.
I'm being uber fan, James, and you are right. Like, I certainly have watched every play. Like, he missed some flat-out layups that had you go 3 and out early in that game that dug that hole. The IU game was a blowout. You didn't need him to have consequential throws in the fourth quarter. Now, one thing I should mention about Leonard, he was hurt transferring from Duke. He did not participate much at all, really, I think, in spring. So, did that put him behind the 8 ball as a thrower? Getting acclimated with the new offense, new personnel, all of that. So I just think it's important to remind people, like, Riley Leonard is 6'4", 216. That is beautiful size for an NFL quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
The toughness he displays as a runner is through the roof. The character is the Colts are blue character traits like none other. They absolutely love it. And he plays the most important position in sports, yet he fell to pick 189. That should tell you everything you need to know about him as a thrower.
So what do the Colts see in him? They're like, we're going to take that guy.
Well, it's that he checks all those boxes, and we hope we can grow him as a thrower. We hope that the injury, exiting Duke, going to Notre Dame, that something more is there. Now, the question will be, what reps is he going to get here? Because, again, Richardson and Jones have to have so many of those reps. So, it's the middle of round 6. The debate you could easily have about quarterback is how should you approach a day 3 quarterback? Should you draft a guy that bleep hits the fan week 8, all of a sudden Richardson gets hurt, all of a sudden Daniel Jones gets hurt in the first series of a week 8 game, and now all of a sudden that third quarterback goes in the game? What do you want? Do you want the quarterback that can, like, keep you afloat? Or do you want the quarterback that has a little bit more of a, hey, guys, he checks all these boxes. If we grow him as a thrower, we might have something here. It's a little bit like the Brock Purdy. Like, Purdy, to me, is a little bit more of like, hey, he can keep us afloat. That was the thought, I think, from San Francisco. Like, look what he did at Iowa State. He did a lot. So, can we, whereas he might not have the oozing physical characteristics that Riley Leonard has. So, but he'll compete, him and Jason Bean, for that third quarterback spot.
Yeah. The other big storyline of the draft was the fall of Shedeur Sanders. And I don't tend to think that there was some big conspiracy, James. I think that first of all, there were not a ton of teams that were looking for quarterbacks specifically this year. It was not thought to be a great quarterback class to begin with. There wasn't real consensus on whether he was going to be a knockout, obvious quarterback. I think all the things surrounding him, you heard about these reports where he didn't really interview all that well. Is his dad going to be somewhat of a helicopter dad at an NFL level? All those kinds of things. I think there are a lot of teams that are just like, yeah, I think we're good right now.
Yeah, I'll push back a little on teams not needing a quarterback this year because I'm looking at some of these teams in the top 10. The Giants, need a quarterback. The Browns
You don't
need
like
a quarterback.
their quarterback room?
No, I mean, even looking further down the list, the Saints need a quarterback.
Okay, but let me ask you about the Giants in particular. You look at what their quarterback room looks like right now. Do you really want to add?
Yeah, I wouldn't
the
add it at
controversy
that
of Shedeur
point.
Sanders
Yeah,
at
I was
that
going to
point?
kind of like break it down a little bit further.
Yeah.
I wouldn't add him in the first round. If people tell me he's not a first or second round, even third round talent, that's fine. But I think when you get to the final day and you slide into the fifth, some of that probably is the circus around you and maybe you needing to be humbled or the league feeling like they want to humble you because you didn't approach it the right way. And perhaps that's a good thing for him. You know, maybe that is something that will be beneficial for him because I think in all of our lives, this is as you grow up, you kind of need to get, brought back down to earth every now and then. But I do think that in a roundabout way, he'll have a chance to compete for the starting job at some point in Cleveland. Like, Joe Flacco, he's old. He's not good. I saw him last year. I know Browns fans might disagree. He was not good when he was with them the last time. Their defense kind of carried them in, and he did just enough to get them to the playoffs. And then on top of that, Dylan Gabriel doesn't move me at all. 5'11" quarterback, not a great passer. And then you look at Kenny Pickett. What has he done in the NFL? I mean, he's going to a room where there isn't like this super huge gap between you and potentially playing. And I'm not saying he's going to go in there and start by week 1, but I believe he has a chance to make the roster and then work from there. And again, can you show some humility? And then how do you also act when your dad isn't your coach? Because that's also a thing that maybe NFL coaches are concerned about or interested about, because this will be the first time in his life that Deion Sanders isn't dad, and he isn't his dad, but isn't his coach on the sideline as his dad.
James, your favorite Colts pick, not named Tyler Warren.
Ooh, I'm going to go Jalen Travis.
Ooh, tell us more. Tell our audience more.
Mainly because
offensive tackle.
Offensive tackle. I'm a basketball guy. I believe that he played. We have a guest come in a little bit, but we also had I believe he played basketball growing up with like Jalen Suggs, and I want to say another player in the NBA as well on the AAU circuit. Super smart guy. Has also went to Princeton, transferred, did great as well as far as his grades, and then wants to go to law school afterwards. So all these things. I mean, he sounds like a very well-rounded human being and a great person. So talking to him, I got the impression that he's going to be successful in life without football. But for right now, he is locked in on the gridiron.
I like Tim Smith, the defensive tackle from Alabama. That can only help you. Traditionally, I like tackles, interior offensive line and defensive linemen from Alabama. Tend to do well in the NFL. I dig that.
I just like that his name is Tim Smith.
Not Timmy Smith.
Smith. It's just so.
And he's town blacksmith.
Yeah, and he seems so regular. Remember we were asking him hey, how'd you celebrate? He's like, I'm a simple guy.
He's got some Grover Stewart in him.
Yeah, I'm a simple guy. I just happy to be here and happy to go get to work. And I'm like, all right, that sounds like the type of guy you need in the trenches. Hard hat, lunch pail.
I'll go DJ Giddens, the running back out of Kansas State. It was surprising to me that a multi-year 1,000-yard rusher, a dude that's 6 foot, 212, runs 4.4, tested very well, that he fell to round 5. A little bit of a third down background that he has in there, so that stood out to me as well. I would go with Tim Smith.
All right. I like it all. Coming up in a moment, we will talk about our GOATs of the week. But first, let's check it down, Mark.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Butler Bulldogs Basketball. 2025-26 season tickets are on sale now. Registration for iconic Hinkle Fieldhouse premium seats runs through May 31st. Don't miss Hinkle Magic. Visit butlersports.com/buy tickets.
If you're rolling out of the rack and you stayed up late last night, you already know. If you were doing something else, we'll let you know that the Indiana Pacers have taken a 3-1 lead over the Milwaukee Bucks in their first-round Eastern Conference playoff series in the NBA. 129-103, the final score last night. James Boyd, 8 different Pacers in double figures, led by Miles Turner with 23. Everybody was feeling it last night.
Yeah, I guess you're feeling it this morning. You
yes.
You yelled at me about this. But, yeah, it was a big game for him, a collective win, which is usually how the Pacers get it done. And now you got a chance tomorrow night to close it out.
Kind of felt like it was 5-on-1 in the second half with Giannis feeling like he had to do everything there in the third and fourth quarter, Kevin.
Yeah, the Bucks others just stink flat out. Pacers are so much deeper, so much better than what Milwaukee has around them. Again, shout out to Miles Turner, absolutely outstanding on both ends of the floor. I thought the bench unit was terrific as well, and I think the Pacers finish it off in pretty convincing fashion tomorrow night at 6.
6 p.m. tip. It'll be a 5:30 airtime here on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan, as the Eastern Conference Eastern Conference first round playoffs continue. Cleveland trying to polish off the Miami Heat later on tonight. If they do, that would be the Pacers' next opponents.
Cleveland is a monster. They're a really great team, and that will certainly be a tough task in round 2. But you got to get through round 1 first, so handle your business if you're the Pacers.
All right, we've told you a little bit about what the Colts have done in the NFL draft. We'll tell you that a couple of Indiana University players were selected, both by the San Francisco 49ers. Kevin, what did you think of C.J. West and Curtis Rourke going to the Niners?
Yeah, I thought West had a great all-star campaign. I believe round 4 or 5, I think, for him. And then Rourke went about 40 picks after Riley Leonard. I thought Rourke could have been, a guy for the Colts there in round 6. But yeah, goes to San Francisco, and certainly round 7 quarterbacks at the 49ers have had some success. Shout out to Marcus Bowe, the Purdue offensive lineman. Went a little bit later than I thought, but to the Giants as well. I know we rattled off some of the undrafted players. Maxon Hook, the safety from New Pal, heading to play for the Eagles. Eli Pancol, a former Pendleton Heights product. He also was an undrafted free agent, I believe, the Jags. So him and Jack Kaiser in Jacksonville together.
All right.
Gus Hartwig, the Purdue offensive lineman, went to the Jets as well.
I like that. Offensive lineman, big for Purdue. Got to dig that.
Not bad.
All right, let's check out.
Really helped him this past season.
Yes.
Kevin's a hater.
Winless in the Big Ten. It was a struggle.
I mean, guys, they got how much did Notre Dame and IU score on them? We just didn't ignore it. Purdue football was horrific.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I pretty much did. I was just because in my mind I was like, oh, that's a win, and I can spend my time doing other things that are more enjoyable. Because
did Notre Dame and IU both put up 60 on Purdue last year?
I just thought it was nice to acknowledge that some kids from Purdue are getting a chance to go play in the National Football League.
Not Kevin. Kevin just kicking them right in the
I'm about to say, dang, that's kind of what I would do. You're taking a page out of my book. Man.
I got a cake delight over here. The Fever have dropped off a cake.
Yeah. You like that from Sweet Escape, it looks like, right?
The Now You Know. That is their new campaign here in the 2025 season. I was told to light the top half of this cake. I mean, look at how many matches that they've
I was
given
wondering
me.
what that was. I was like, are you trying to take me out of here?
Right now? Or should we do it on
set
the
up
other
the
side?
sprinkler system. That'd be good.
Say, Mark, get the fire hose ready just in case.
I feel like this is the last match here. We got to light Buzz Lightyear here to get him to fly in the air.
Spoken like a true dad.
I have to have you do that like at 9:45 just to see what happens. Do you see the look on his face, the smile on his face? Like anything could happen.
Maybe it's like a sparkler and it'll just go crazy.
I know. I'm gonna light it. I'm gonna move it away from my laptop, but I'm certainly gonna light it.
All right, well, check that out. Coming up in a minute, we got the Goats of the Week coming up as well. Also, shout out to Braylon Mullins, Mr. Basketball for 24-25 here in the state of Indiana. Coming up in a moment, our Goats of the Week, and we'll try to keep the studio safe from Kevin Bowen as we continue. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The scent of burning sulfur, matchsticks, and a cake from the Indiana Fever. Doesn't get any better for a break right there. How about
the
that?
Now You Know campaign. This is their new slogan here for 2025. They dropped off a cake for us, and thank you to Steven at the front desk. He informed me that you need to light the top layer. And all three of you looked very skeptical at me.
Well, didn't you?
Yeah,
feel
I didn't
a
know
little
what was
skeptical
going
too?
on.
I thought you were going to burn your fingertips off.
All three of you looked at me a little cross-eyed.
Well, it was more the glint in your eye when you had the match in your hand that worried us more than anything.
I'm not a big pyro, but, I
don't know.
I will do what I was told, and so lit the top layer of the cake. And, Mark, I don't know if the video will translate to social media, but all of a sudden, the top layer evaporated, and it said, "Now you know,"
There's a little
as the
message
layer underneath it.
You were much more impressed by the cake than you were by anyone that played for Purdue last year, that's for sure.
Well, I'm just being honest. Purdue football.
The cake
again,
was impressive.
There's a reason why Barry Odom is now their head coach there. So, shout out to the Fever and their new campaign. Now You Know. That is their campaign here. Indiana and basketball have always been synonymous. It's ingrained into our DNA. Much of the sport's history stems from our backyard. The campaign is a nod to the fans, including the longtime supporters, those who are new to Fever, who show up and support this team in a record-breaking fashion. That is courtesy of the team itself.
Did you hold the cake up for the camera for everyone to see?
Sure, I will.
You should do that.
You would like this, Mark. Right now, the Fever they have the second best odds to win the WNBA championship.
Who's before them?
Mark does this
the
look
New
on
York
camera.
Liberty at plus 230.
A little higher.
Oh, there we go.
Looks gorgeous.
There you go.
There you go.
Now be careful. Don't dump it right off the front there.
Spoken like someone
It says
who
strawberry too, right? That's what it says on the side there.
I'm like, do we cut the top off? I'm like, is there some match residue in there? Did I do that correctly?
Yeah.
I think you did.
I think you did.
Yeah, the Liberty are at plus 230. Indiana and Las Vegas are both 350. So people
Reminder,
like
training
the
camp
Fever.
yesterday. Caitlin Clark, Stephanie White, among others, will meet the media today. And coming up Saturday, they are inside of Gamebridge Fieldhouse for their first preseason game. Man, WNBA doesn't mess around. You start camp on Sunday, you play your first game on a Saturday. I guess the NBA is kind of like that as well.
I want to say they go to Iowa, right?
On Sunday.
At one point, they're going to play Brazil.
Yeah.
Back
Brazilian
to back.
national
Yeah,
team.
Saturday, Sunday, their first two preseason games. And
The
then
demand is high.
May 17th
All
will
right.
be their regular season debut.
Looking forward to all that. In the meantime, Mark, we got some business to take care of.
Who is the GOAT?
I told you all that I was the greatest of all time.
Jordan, here's Michael at the foul line. A shot on Elo. Good!
That's what I'm talking about. That's why he's MVP. That's why he's the GOAT. The GOAT.
Or GOAT?
This guy sucks.
Of the week.
Kevin Bowman will lead it off with you this week. Who was your GOAT of the week for just absolutely stellar performances or anything else you might look at?
I love this time of year. I'm going there. That is my GOAT from the weekend. The weather, the month of May is arriving. The Pacers and Racers, we'll at least get Pacers into the Grand Prix, potentially further than that. I love the Derby. I cannot wait for Saturday. Post time, we'll get around the TV. That's one of the very few sports I feel like my kids are locked in. The Derby is a great young kid sport. A, there's animals involved, and B, it lasts for 2 minutes. It's the perfect. Max Bowen is locked in right now to watch the Kentucky Derby. So I love this time of year. We spent a whole lot of time outside this week and cannot wait to continue that. So hopefully we are past it all.
That's a terrific way to lead it off. James Boyd.
I'm going to go Terry Warren, the father of Tyler Warren, who made him watch John Riggins' film. And I believe the first day we got Tyler in on Friday in person, I asked him, hey, did you ever think your dad was crazy? And he got a little chuckle out of him, and the room kind of knew. I'm like, Dad, you're the reason why he's probably here. And he was just, and the funny thing about it was, he said if it wasn't his dad, it would have been somebody else in his family on either side. So it sounds like Mom's very competitive too, comes from a competitive family. But shout out to Terry Warren, whose nickname was the Hitman in college at Richmond University as a safety, and his son certainly plays with some physicality.
All right, I'm going to go a couple of guys. C.J. West going to the San Francisco 49ers. I think that's a perfect spot for a defensive lineman to end up, and I'm looking for Indiana to make some hay. And you'll hear more from him. I love that player. I think he's going to be a good fit there. I think it worked out well for him. And, of course, Braylon Mullins from Greenfield Central. The stats are eye-popping, James. You've talked about going to see him, and he lived up to all that. But 32.9 points per game, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and almost 4 steals led his team to a 23-4 record. That is how you become Mr. Basketball Indiana right there.
Yeah, I mean, he was super efficient too, which you don't see a lot of high-level scorers in high school be that efficient, but he don't miss shots. And I watched him, and I was like, he's going to get paid to play this game one day, but respect him for staying at Greenfield Central and building something special there.
Mark, do we have a non-Bears edition from you this week?
Somewhat, but it still is a Bears tie-in because on Friday night, the Bears' third-round pick, they were getting booed left and right from the Lambeau faithful and all the jorts-wearing Packers fans out there. And so then in the third round rolls around, who comes out? None other than WWE's Seth Rollins, and he made me smile.
Green Bay, Wisconsin! Is that all you got? Come on, you can be louder than that! I know y'all mad because championship gold looks good on the blue and orange. But in all seriousness, Green Bay, we are in the shadow of Lambeau Field. And I love Lambeau Field because the king of the North, the best quarterback in the NFC North, Caleb Williams, is undefeated at Lambeau Field. Let's burn it down and bear down Chicago.
Outstanding.
I need pro wrestlers to announce every NFL draft pick going forward. That was phenomenal. I was smiling ear to ear. So you tell them, Seth. You tell them. So stick it, Packers fans. That was glorious. That was the highlight of the weekend.
I forgot they won at Lambeau.
It was the final game of the season, right? Weren't the Packers resting people?
I don't remember. It was who cares?
I think the Bears just won the offseason at Lambeau.
That was a good one. They were giving it to everybody, so I was like, glad you gave it back to him, Seth. Good, well done.
Respect.
I like your idea, though. There should be a WWE flair to the announcement of a lot of these picks.
They're all NFL. Get them out there at least in the second round. Start making it interesting because sometimes you get these guys, these former players, are just like going through the motions and everything like that. I want promos cut on every team. I want that to happen.
I like that.
Jonathan Taylor did a great job, by the way.
He was very good
pronouncing JT Tuimoloau. I'm like, oh boy, I don't know if I can do that.
You think they spelled that out phonetically in their little card?
Still,
there?
that was impressive. My negative is it's also sniffle season for me. Allergies are alive and well, so I'm going to be selfish.
My wife is just suffering this morning.
Thinking if I should I ingest the Allega just like through my nostril here to try and improve the effects of it here. So allergy season alive and well. I think I sneezed 13 times on the drive into work.
You've done well today, keeping it at bay.
I know, but I know it's going to hit me as soon as I walk outside.
Good job out of you, James.
Probably Kyle Kuzma from the Bucks. Every time I see him play basketball, I'm like, wow, he gets paid $22 million a year to do this. And respect him for getting the bag. I'm never going to hate on the man making some money, but I don't know how Bucks fans feel about him because he has been awful throughout the playoffs. And again, if you need some help, Lillard's out, need somebody to step up. He's not the guy who's going to do it.
Yeah. Mark, you're going to appreciate mine. I'm watching TV Friday night, and I came across some WWE, and John Cena just absolutely refusing to acknowledge the fans got him anywhere near his position in the WWE. And, I mean, he's gone not just full heel. He's embraced it. He's sewn himself up in it. He's wrapped himself in a blanket of it. He has truly become the WWE bad goat.
He was good. He was ripping a kid because a 6-year-old gave him the finger, and he said, "What kind of parent are you?" And he called the dad fat in front of his kid. That was outstanding. Ripping parents in front of their children. That's the way you do it in pro wrestling.
That I also wanted to give a nod to the ridiculous, and James, back me up on this, the ridiculous 2-minute report that the NBA gives every time they completely botch the end of a game, like, oh, bad, sorry, guys, it's our bad.
Yeah, that's actually my lowercase goat. That ref who looked at the last play where Josh Hart clearly fouls the Pistons shooter, I believe it might have been, was it Tim Hardaway Jr. or, yeah, I think it was Tim Hardaway Jr.
Right in front of him looking at it.
That's horrible. That is horrible. And I get it. And then the worst part about it is, you know, I don't know how Pistons fans would have reacted, but immediately they cut the game. They go into their in-studio segment, and you got Stephen A. Smith telling you, we up 3-1, we up 3-1. I don't care. And it's like, you don't want to hear that in the moment. You probably want to hear a breakdown of how bad that was. And I get we all have our fandoms, but, man, that would, like, just make me want to just never want to watch ESPN again because that was frustrating. And I've kind of felt for Pistons fans. That series should be, assuming he makes the free throws, tied up at 2-2, but instead it's 3-1 because a ref looked at a guy, fouled someone right in front of him, and didn't call it.
Mark?
We talked about it all show long, but the Dame Lillard injury, that stinks. He fought back from blood clot issues, and now he has that injury, and it sucks for him, and it sucks for NBA fans because he's outstanding. I've always been a fan of Damian Lillard, and it stinks. I don't care who you're rooting for in the series. It stinks.
All right, coming up in a moment, Kevin Still, you can see him just floating from the opportunity to light something on fire in the studio.
I'm going to save the matches for Rosie's birthday now. Those are awesome fever matches.
I think he's riding a sulfuric high right now.
I'll be in the bathroom during the break.
Give us a call right now. Fast Fingers, 239-1070. You want 4-pack to go see the Indy 11 coming up this weekend against Detroit City FC. Give us a call right now, 239-1070. We will hook you up. We'll have some final thoughts to get you ready for your Monday, a Victory Monday here at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Good morning. Thanks for hanging with us all morning long here, or if you're just joining us, we appreciate that at 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. You can listen to us the old-fashioned way on the radio at those two frequencies. You can get us on the 107.5 The Fan app. You can do it at 1075thefan.com, or you can say, I know you do sometimes, James, to your smart speaker. Hey, Alexa,
no, I actually
play
don't have
107.5 The Fan.
I don't have a smart speaker.
You don't trust them?
It's not that I don't trust them. I don't need it. I have a Bluetooth speaker that I bought when I was in college, and it still works. So shout out to the, what is it, UE Mega Boom? I've had it for 10 years at this point.
Yeah. Mark, we just gave away a 4-pack of tickets to Indy 11. They'll take on Detroit City FC this weekend, Saturday. At Carroll's. It's Friday or Saturday? I think it's Saturday.
Saturday,
yeah.
yeah.
Saturday night at Carroll Stadium. Who was our lucky winner today?
Shout out to Jules. He won. He's excited. So we'll have tickets to give away all week long for the Indy 11 game on Saturday night.
All right. Before we put a big bow on things and get some final thoughts from these guys, let's get our stat of the day provided by the one and only Scotty Johnson, our Jiffy Lube Super Stat of the day. You ready to go for that? All right. There we go. Tyrese Halliburton scored 17 points, dished out 15 assists in the Pacers' Game 4 win last night in Milwaukee. We've been talking about that. Gentlemen, Halliburton is the first player in Pacers history to record 15 points and 15 assists in multiple playoff games. The only other Pacer to do it one time. Take a guess. Kevin?
Oh, boy. Point guard. Mark Jackson?
James?
Yeah, it's got to be Mark Jackson.
You are correct. It is Mark Jackson. Halliburton has 4 consecutive games with 10 or more assists in the series. It ties Mark Jackson for the most consecutive 10-plus assist playoff games in franchise history. Pacers had 8 players with 12 or more points in last night's win, and that ties the NBA playoff record originally set in 78 by the Philadelphia 76ers against the Knicks. And I don't know if you want to hear this or not, Mark. He gave us one bonus stat for baseball.
Okay.
You interested?
Sure.
Scotty says,
Probably
how
only
bad
if it's the Cubs.
Yeah, it's gonna. It's really sort of a nod to our Reds, Kevin, but not really. How bad are the Colorado Rockies? The Reds went into Denver, completed a 3-game series sweep yesterday afternoon to drop the Rocks to 4-23 on the season. Last year, the White Sox set a modern major league record for losses, going 41-121. Through 27 games last year, those Sox had one more win than the Rockies currently have, opening at 5-22. So it could be historically bad again this year.
Good thing weed is legal in Colorado because you probably need some to watch the Rockies this year.
Make it
Light
more
them up.
interesting. That's your Jiffy Lube stat of the day. Jiffy
Always
Lube,
420 out there.
Indiana's favorite oil change since 1985. Final thoughts on the weekend, Kevin
Well,
Vaughn?
I think, you mentioned Halliburton. I thought last night he was really good. Through 4 games, though, he's got another gear. And I feel like if you're a Pacer fan exiting this series, which I think will end tomorrow, that I view that as a sign of encouragement. I don't view that. I don't know. Maybe you could spin that the other way and be like, hey, is Halliburton going to be the $200 million guy in the postseason? I want to be clear. He has not been bad, but maybe he's played at an all-star-ish level, not like an all-NBA level. Whereas late in the season, James, you mentioned this quite often, all-NBA level is
I think
where
he's third-team All-NBA this year.
he was at. So, again, I treat that as a little bit more of boy, the Pacers can get there. There's a shot at great this series from 3. The turnover numbers may have been a little bit higher than we're used to with him. So that, I think, is a little bit of, okay, wow, the Pacers got a little bit more of a ceiling here, even though I think they've thoroughly outplayed the Bucks.
Thoughts for you over the weekend?
Obviously, the draft. I'm glad to get through it. We survived. Kevin Bowen. I sat next to Kevin in the studio and then over at the facility for hours and hours and hours as we kind of mowed through the draft. So that's behind us. We can finally get to see the sun a little bit. There was a time where Kevin looked outside and was like, it's very nice out there and we can't go. And I was like, yes, it's like being banned from the playground. From your parents. You're walking by, you want to go to the playground, you can't.
It's like Saturday detention.
Yeah, that's basically what it felt like to a certain
looking
degree.
through the window, the blinds are about half open.
Yeah.
There are my friends out there playing Foursquare, and I'm stuck inside.
Exactly. And then pivoting back to the Pacers, I think, just handle business tomorrow. I know people kind of take it for granted. Oh, they'll close them out. There's no guarantee, man. When you got a guy like Giannis on the other side who can go off at any moment, and he'll give everything because that's what he always does. So withstand him, and then, like I said, make Kyle Kuzma and the other guys have to beat you. You got a good chance of getting it done.
I go to the Pacers as well, and I think about this, and they've got work to do. They have 3-1, and I know Damian Lillard is hurt, and everybody, including us, thinking that the Pacers are going to just whomp them tomorrow night, which I expect that to happen. But you got to take care of business. But think about this. If they do take care of business tomorrow night, Kevin, this Pacers team will have won 4 of their last 5 playoff series. That's pretty cool.
4 or 5, 3 or 4.
They went 3-1 last. Well, I guess it'd be
They won 2 last year, right?
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So they beat the Knicks in 7, of course. Beat the Bucks.
I have
in
trouble
6.
with math over 3, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, certainly, to have a drought like they had entering last postseason. I forget the exact years. I want to say it was 9 years without a playoff series victory, and I think 6 without just a playoff win, and to certainly cross both of those off in emphatic fashion stood out last season. And boy, I know it's premature, but I can't wait for that Cavs series. I think it could be an outstanding series. Cleveland will play tonight. They could finish off the Heat here with a 4-game sweep. I think it'll be great. And I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I kind of missed Cleveland this year. I didn't really see as much as I should have. And again, when the Pacers and Cavs met, they met 2 times late in the year, and seemingly neither team really tried in either game, especially Cleveland. So I don't feel like I'm just kind of done with Milwaukee. I'm just sick and tired of them. And Giannis is a great talent. He's unbelievable. It's nothing against him. I'm just done with the Bucks. I'm ready for something new. And I think Cleveland will provide a really unique, but in a way, kind of a similar challenge of 2 really balanced teams.
And we had a little dust up yesterday with double text. James, kind of surprised, having played 19 times.
Seemingly all they do is call double text.
In the span of about 13 months, really 12 months, you would think that guys would just get on each other's nerves and get tired of each other at some point.
Oh, absolutely. I hate you. You hate me. You're kicking my butt. I want to win, and that's what basketball is. So I enjoy it. We'll hear from Rick Carlisle tomorrow, hopefully, and he'll be able to kind of give us the recipe or the formula for closing out the series. And then he won't talk about Cleveland at all. So we'll do a lot of that for him.
He'd be disgusted with how I talked about this Pacers series.
Exactly. But I do want to hear from him, though, about what they did to kind of take control of the series and what it'll take to finish it out.
Also, NFL and their draft, we know it's a big deal. We care about it. We all follow it. We do the things watching online, and you guys are in the room following the Colts and everything else. But whether you agree with the 600,000 estimated crowd that was there in Green Bay, there were certainly hundreds of thousands of people at some point, because I've been around, I've seen how these things work in the past. But they had live coverage on ABC, on ESPN, on NFL Network. It was all over any kind of sports internet site you want to go. They literally own media for 3 days.
I mean, hell, have you seen our listening numbers on YouTube here? Friday's show and today. I mean, probably the 2 most listened shows in 2025, frankly. Sure. Yeah, I mean, the NFL is king, and it's no shock. I'm sure your clicks, James, see it as well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, man. The draft, which I always say is my least favorite event to cover because it's so long, it helps pay the bills. And when I get through it, I'm like, you know what? I do love the draft. I see my numbers. I'm like, man, this is fantastic.
You guys both do a great job, and we're happy to have you tell us all about it here. And we will continue doing it throughout the day. Jake Query joins you at noon. Then JMV, Guaranteed Pacer Sports Arousal.